I hit the stream button, but I'm not seeing it on my screen yet. This is looking a little more encouraging, although it's probably going to start talking to me, and I'll feel bad about that. Okay, I've got my quality options. I can't mute the stream. I'm going to make a guess here that this is working for everyone, and for whatever reason, there's something keeping me from being able to interact with the proper settings on Twitch. But if you're having difficulty hearing me, you can't hear this. If there's any difficulties interacting with Twitch, specifically along the lines of just being able to change volume settings or anything along those lines, let me know and I will do my best to fix them. But I've been a little self-conscious about two things over the last little while. One is my tendency for the last few streams to be very chatty and not make as much progress through the game, which is not always a bad feature, but it's something that I want to sort of rein in before it becomes too much of a sort of a drawback. And then my start dates have been getting a little bit better, but they have also started to creep every once in a while. So I wanted to try and start as early as I could today. I just kind of finished an absolutely garbage dinner, but it's a dinner that I had nonetheless. I'm going to try and jump straight into the game, or as close to it as I can. One thing I did want to say before I go too much further is I've been delighted by how many people have been picking this up on YouTube, by which I mean, like, I do keep track of the stats every once in a while, and I noticed an unexpected bump in terms of Stellaris. Now, this might be an indicator that people who normally like watching my stuff but can't watch me on Mondays are enjoying the Stellaris stuff. It might be that there are some new viewers who are checking out my Stellaris stuff for the first time, and for whatever reason, the search engine optimization's working a little bit better. So to those of you who check out my stuff, I really appreciate it, particularly the comments, because I know it's been tricky to do some of the Paradox stuff lately. But with that in mind, I was given a copy of Nemesis for promotional purposes, so a very special thank you to the contact who did that. I like highlighting the fact that it really, in some cases, it really does depend who you talk to. I have had some sort of community managers and individuals, and I'm like, there's no like naming names or anything like that in this, but there's definitely some people who have generally been very transparently transactional. And for those times that, sort of I'm on top of the world and I have something that they want, that works very well, but you always have that feeling that, when you are no longer useful to them, you're not going to hear from them again. And then there are the people who are just delightful to interact with, independent of whether or not they even tell you yes. Obviously, it's really easy. If you're a streamer and you're asking for a key, obviously you're going to think highly of anybody who says yes to you. But there are actually, I can tell you for sure that there are companies that are actually very good at, letting you down softly. And then there are the ones which it's just kind of like, you kind of feel like you're nobody to them. I like to highlight the ones who do that. So it wasn't directly Paradox I was dealing with in this case, but there was a rep who I was talking to about the keys, and in their particular case, they were really, really pleasant to interact with, and I sort of feel like they sort of understood what I was trying to do here. And I've noticed that has meant that some people are not just watching, but a few people have actually let me know that they're picking up the DLC off of this. So I appreciate that. I hope that's justified the use of the key. But more importantly, because I'm hearing that feedback, it is, of course, always worth mentioning. I have been given this key for promotional purposes. You're going to have to make your own buying decisions, and of course, you can discount whatever I say in accordance with the knowledge that I might have some interest. And if you're curious about what I have enabled, basically I have all of the DLC enabled except for the Necroids species pack, and everything except plantoids and humanoids are DLC that I've been given by Paradox for promotional purposes. So the disclosure's out of the way. Let's take a look at the situation in the galaxy. So we had a bit of a fun revelation. We're doing okay for size, I think, but we suddenly found out why the galaxy seems so open. It's because, well, there's not a lot of people in it, and it seems like I, for whatever reason, was isolated from the galaxy as a whole. Now, overall, I think this is a fairly good thing, because if we take a look at the situation log and the overall scores for people, so I'm sitting here at a paltry 2,550. I am basically 48 points away from being last place. The next highest is about 480 points, probably 490. So, you know, there's a meaningful gap here. And then, of course, another 400 points. We're at the Zaxoid Stellar Confederation. It looks like there's only one fallen empire. Sorry, there are two, because there's a number one position. So we haven't run into the next one. Needless to say, though, I should be worried about my position, particularly if I'm this big and I'm still falling behind in terms of sort of scores for things. So where I think I'm probably going to be taking some of this, so one, we built this so that we can try some of the new intelligence mechanics. So one, I want to try and get a better idea of the sort of the boundaries by leveraging my my spy networks. And then I'm going to try and push myself up these leaderboards. And I mean, there's only one way to really do it, which is just do more, right? Bring my economic strength up, bring my technological level up, get more systems, get more colonies, get more pops. I'm trying to figure out exactly where my weakness lies in a few of these things. It could be fleet size. It could be economic strength. There's any number of things that could be hurting me here. In fact, I think particularly for economic strength, I have a suspicion that my lack of consumer goods relative to my minerals might be hurting me there. Then there's another factor, which is right now I haven't been building out any of my star bases. I should really get on that, because I'm doing okay for energy credits and I'm doing okay for alloys. But let's think a little bit. So one of the things that I want to be doing is expanding. Now, one of the things that's going to sort of give me a little bit of a limit's maybe not the right way. One of the things I need to keep in mind about my expansion is the Empire sprawl. Right now we're exceeding it, and I definitely have a bunch of stuff that I sort of want to try and get a hold of, and then fill in. So right now, Castra is my bureaucratic center. It's how I've been handling. The sort of the expansion thing. Right now, there's 6 available jobs on this planet. Let's just see. Okay, so we will be able to boost our. So this will naturally increase over time. That's good. But yeah, I mean, there's a limit in terms of how much I can sort of upgrade this stuff. So my bureaucratic capacity is going to be one constraint on my growth. Then, of course, there's the other factor, which is just my species grows slowly. And that's going to be something that sort of compounds over time. Now, I'm starting to fix that by colonizing some of these worlds. So we've got Wenquart Artem. We're currently working on that. I'll be clearing out whatever details I can find. The Wentwork Custodian I was actually pretty happy to get, because it boosts my culture worker and research output. Given the fact that the gardens already have a culture and research bonus, it's pretty clear what we're going to be focusing on here. Essentially, I don't want to do anything with artisans, miners. I think for the gas refinery, or well, I'm going to have to at least build something for the crystalline caverns. It seems wrong to not exploit that. But this is definitely going to be very sort of very intellectually focused. Right, and I need to hire a governor. Okay, so one priority right now is going to be to sort of establish my borders and then sort of seal them off, fill in the gaps and such, and then we'll have to deal with the consequences of the empire sprawl. I need to get my consumer goods under control. That's going to be happening in the Lemsa system. Eventually, I need to boost my overall naval capabilities. I need to be able to field a larger navy to deal with these potentially stronger enemies. And then just do what I've been doing so far, which is to do some more exploration in terms of the galaxies and such. So let's just do a review of the existing worlds. So I could put another generator district down, or I could put another city district down. We're doing okay energy-wise. I do eventually want to get these ruined arcologies and such cleared out, so let's invest in clearing at least one of those. And we've got 2 jobs, so I suppose I don't need to make a decision here yet. I would prefer to put research labs down. We've already got the specialization for the generator district, so I'm okay there. We've already got a temple, so it doesn't make sense to build more. A research lab, maybe, but overall, I'm pretty happy with where these are, and it would be nice if we could specialize a little bit more. Castra, we already talked about it. It's a bureaucratic center. What I may wind up doing is shifting some of these industrial districts over to city districts so that I can expand out the number of administrative offices. But the fact of the matter is I just have too many jobs that need to be filled right now. So that's not going to be a long-term plan. Intham we're already building. We've got an industrial district under construction. Now, Intham is eventually going to become alloy focused, but at the moment it's built as an urban world for the simple reason that I need to keep a balance between my alloy and my consumer goods. But the plan is eventually going to be to have this be focused on alloys. Gribben is my agri world. Now, eventually I would like to build a special slot, not with hydroponics farms, but there's a multiplier. I can't remember the name of the building, but there's something that'll give me a percent-based bonus. Eventually, I will build one of those, and of course, I'll boost up the number of agriculture districts and such. Actually, there's one thing I can do. These all want energy, which I don't have as much of. So things like this, right? When you take a look, max agriculture districts, that's great, but I mean, I've got currently a limit of 2, so at some point I'm going to have to, where is it? Oh, hang on, it's a blocker, so it removes max districts and it boosts the total that I can get. Fair enough. Okay, this colony, we've got 8 jobs available right now, so I, can't really do anything there. Again, it's Lemsa, so there's going to be the industrial focus. In fact, have I already... Stability, happiness, and amenities. Okay, I guess I'll keep it like that for now. But eventually this is going to become an industrial world. All right, well, we got what we need there. The super clanker, what's going on here? That's the ship that I got from the... That's the ship that I got from, right, our visitors. Okay, right, so we'll just keep those the way that they are. I think we're ready to unpause and see where the game takes us. Now, I am curious where my science ships are at. So I'm okay with that. They're sort of exploring on their own. That's fine. All right. Now, the thing that worries me here... I'm trying to find what ship... Oh, this ship. Okay. So I'm trying to find basically which of my ships is going to be taking care of this part of the galaxy. So let's see what's going on here. The Vitresis Hive has closed the borders. The Zaxoid Stellar Confederation, again, closed the borders. And the Talakur Citizen Compact have closed the borders. Okay, I'd actually like to check a few things, galaxy-wise. Okay, the Readied Shield. The universe is a dangerous place, and all members of the galactic community should be ready to defend their worlds, whether it be against pirates, space creatures, or the unknown. So diplomatic weight from fleet power, plus 20%, naval capacity up by 10. Now, we don't get to see what the fleet power and such is, so I think I'm going to be abstaining from these measures until I have a clearer idea. I am inclined towards the Readied Shield, but I am worried in terms of what will... I want to try and figure out exactly what's going to be pushing the political power in their favor. Pan-Galactic Recycling Initiative, so lower diplomatic weight from economy, reduction to consumer good upkeep. Now that's good for me in general. Does make the blockers a little bit harder, so this is something I could work with. Comfort the fallen, the lowest among us are still one of us, and we should come together to assist them in their time of need. Unemployed workers have their unhappiness penalty reduced by 10, lower diplomatic weight from tech, higher spiritualist ethics attraction, and higher unity from jobs. This is one that actually seems to be... So I think I will support this one because it does seem to line up pretty well with my priorities. And then there's the Tianki Conservation Act. The Tianki are a unique form of spacefaring life. They must be protected from those who would do them harm. And the empire that kills a Tianki will be considered in breach of galactic law. Now, I seem to remember we had an event with the Tianki. Okay. Not much I can say about it right now, so I'll just leave it be. I can see the Tianki thing working, though. Alright, let's see what else we're dealing with here. So... we have more intel on these guys, huh? The real question right now is who am I going to be sending the spies to? Maybe I can take a look at the... Okay, so we got... These guys are going to be a natural enemy. The hive mind, I seem to recall there's just a general... I seem to recall that there's like a general... there's a general difficulty in... Oh god, there's so many egalitarians. Okay, the Giroid High Kingdom, I feel like we can build relations with them. So we'll do employ... Oh. Okay, we already committed all of our... Okay, so the Giroid High Kingdom is someone who I want to try and get on good terms with. They are kind of close to me, power-wise, and they're really far away from me, tech-wise. Okay, and then the Zaxoid Stellar Confederation. I think I want to get an idea in terms of what their boundaries are, just because, like, I need to, I need to know how big of a threat they're going to be. Man, there's a lot in here. This will be cool. Okay, so yeah, I thought there was some more, I thought there was a little bit more that we could do espionage-wise, but there is not. Okay, so why am I moving my Starfleet
Construction complete. Construction complete.
I think I'm just going to put them back, I think I'm going to put them back in the capital. The recycling campaign edict affecting our empire has expired. That's going to be a problem. So I may want to reinstate that. Okay, what's going on with my construction ship? Okay, well right now we're waiting to explore Yunar. So at least in this case here, I'll build the mining stations and the research stations while I wait for the ship to come by. How you doing, Tillman? By the way, sorry if that's not an appropriate abbreviation. If you prefer me to go by the full name, let me know. Yeah, I think the plan here was to expand out to at least Gedzeric, although Vorsham probably makes the most sense because of the energy resources. And then, of course, the fact that I can colonize these worlds kind of makes me want to stretch all the way out to Borbo.
Anomaly found.
Massive storms are visible in the upper atmosphere of this gas giant. It might be worth the effort to study them in more detail. There's a small temptation for me to consider like building another construction ship so that I can fill in all of these gaps, but right now I just kind of want to snake out and work with what I've got. Okay, what are the, as far as edicts are concerned, what's it going to cost me to do another recycling initiative? It's 1,000. That's half of my energy credits, but I think I'm going to do it. Extreme storms. Jompran 2 frequently experiences massive and extremely violent storm systems in its atmosphere. Several dozen persistent storms are visible from orbit, with winds often reaching speeds in excess of 700 meters a second. The cause of these storms is not immediately apparent, as we have found nothing in the planet's climate model that would explain them. Our scientists are interested in studying this anomaly. And that is definitely a world that I will take over at some point. Maybe a long-term plan, but still one I'm going to take. So the reason I felt okay spending the energy on the consumer goods here is that in the end, the consumer goods that I buy are going to be ones that, like, I'm going to have to pay for them with energy credits. So essentially, I'm just kind of minimizing that cost in advance. I'm sure I have like a proper way of sitting down and working that all out for myself, but I didn't want to, you know, I don't want to drag out the calculator every single time I make a decision in this game, so. The Void Clouds I know I'm not going to be able to deal with anytime soon. I'm a little unhappy with where my, like, generally where all of my, my ships are. I feel like I could have a slightly better distribution of my my ships. Okay. I see what's happening here. I can, if I haven't done this already, I should, oh. I thought I might be able to take a peek at its armaments. Okay, so we only have one more option here, Interstellar Franchising. A focus on franchising allows even the most mundane planet to open a thriving dynamic business, providing local jobs and increasing trade value. So a bunch more jobs just got created that way. All right, Star Mag 4, this barren and lifeless world is showing signs of once having supported a biosphere. We'll research that, and let's figure out what we want for Ascension perks. So this is one of the big features that was implemented in this this DLC. So all great works require sacrifice. The rest of the galaxy may not understand, but they will comply. So if you have not played Stellaris before, or if you've only just recently played the game, one of the interesting things about this game, I don't want to, so I'll try to be a little coy about it. I'm going to talk a bit about what happens at the end of the game, but nothing too catastrophic, let's say. One of the things that is interesting about Stellaris is that, unlike some of the other grand strategy games, which will, you know, there'll be, okay, here's the analogy I'll draw. When you play Hearts of Iron 4, you probably know that World War II is going to happen in some form. But the end of World War II is a whole other matter. Because the focus of that game is very much, you know, a war game. I think it was called Operation Unthinkable, but basically like the thought or the fear or the plan of a war between the democratic nations and the Soviet Union is almost certain to happen in that game, I feel like. It's a tough one to kind of get a read in terms of when you're done. Like sometimes those games, the best you can say is you're done when you've accomplished what you were looking for. Sorry, I just saw a copyright claim. Nothing to worry about though. In the case of Stellaris, there is something different that happens here, and basically, I don't know if it's a chance or if it's just sort of like it's a chance with probability increasing to 1 as time goes by, but basically something big will happen at the end of the game, and there's a number of big things that can happen, but a game of Stellaris will usually push towards some giant galaxy-shaping crisis. And one of the things that's so interesting about it is it's a little bit like, in some ways, what happens in the Total War Warhammer game, which is chaos is approaching and chaos arrives, and if you have wasted the time before chaos arrives, just beating up your potential allies, you're going to have a much more difficult time than if you had gotten some kind of an equilibrium and were able to prepare for the coming storm. And this tends to happen in Stellaris, and it can be really fun to deal with it, especially if the rest of the galaxy really isn't on your side. Nemesis, true to its name, has now made it so that you can become sort of this, axis around which the galaxy turns. You can become this supreme evil that the rest of the galaxy sort of feels the need to deal with. I like the option here. I'm probably not going to take it so early because I am relatively powerless. But needless to say, it's an option that's on the table. Let's consider some of the things that we might want to do here, though. So there's mind over matter. Only a fraction of the potential contained within our minds has been unlocked. The latent psionic abilities of our species are only now beginning to manifest in certain individuals. The latent psionic abilities of our species will be awakened in some individuals. Research option gain telepathy. Now, I don't think I've ever done mind over matter, and it does seem to be a very good way to break codes. Galactic force projection, so this will give a huge bonus to naval capacity and fleet command limit. The big problem I have with that one right now is that might break my economy, and it sort of seems to be a short-term response to a problem that I might have a better solution for. Interstellar Dominion is also somewhat attractive because, again, the lower cost for starbase influence and claims. But the worry that I would have there is it doesn't do anything about the Empire sprawl, which is the real worry. Boost to starbase capacity. Again, I'm not limited in starbases yet, so not the one that I'm looking for. One vision will give me bonus unity and reduce the amenities unit usage. So the one vision is a fairly attractive one across a number of dimensions. Better unity as well as a reduction in the amenities, not the amenities, it's the consumer goods I need to worry about. And then the ethics attraction will ultimately translate in better influence for me. So one vision is one I was considering before. Consecrated worlds would be nice, except that generally I am going to be using all of the worlds that I claim, so we won't consider that one right now. Mastery of nature. So clear blocker cost -33 isn't maybe the most exciting one if your alternatives is like become the crisis. But there is something to be said about the fact that you can embiggen your planets by 2. And given the fact that these special buildings, given the way the economy shifted in the game, Mastery of Nature can become actually quite attractive. Now, Imperial Prerogative, this is the one that helps me with the admin cap. So you get a 20% bonus. We currently have 92, so that's going to be a little shy of 20 additional admin cap. Not terrible, but maybe not the sort of thing that I would want right away. This, of course, becomes more valuable the larger I grow, so maybe I'll wait a little while on that. Executive Vigor is kind of tempting given my edicts. And then Shared Destiny, available envoys. This would be great for my espionage efforts. But I'm thinking, so the ones that are most attractive to me right now, Shared Destiny, Mastery of Nature, One Vision, and Mind Over Matter. And because I haven't done Mind Over Matter before, I think I'm going to try it. Since the dawn of our civilization, tales have flourished of mighty sorcerers wielding powers that can only be described as supernatural in nature. These rare Emetherians could supposedly invade the minds of their fellows, lift heavy objects with merely a thought, or perform any number of other magical feats. Until recently, these stories were just that, stories. Now, however, our scientists have finally obtained conclusive evidence that proves the psionic potential inherent in certain Emetherian individuals. Although only a very small minority of our species as a whole seem to be gifted with psionic powers, their numbers relative to the total population have grown steadily over the last few centuries. Whether this is due to some kind of sudden evolutionary growth spurt, or because something has triggered latent psionic abilities that were always present in our genetic code, scientists cannot say. Modify pops in the Black Codex, adding the latent psionic trait. The Psi-Core building is now available, and psionic armies can now be recruited. That's a Philip K. Dick reference. And the music just got super appropriate.
Star system charted.
Recovered cache. While clearing the wreckage on Quantos, we recovered an ancient cache of technology which dates back to our former empire. Only a minimal amount of research should be required to reintegrate this knowledge into our technology base. This is a big deal. I should actually be taking advantage of this more often then. Maybe I'll wait till I research the tech before I do the next one, but I am going to have to start clearing out more of the rubble.
Technology secured.
Speaking of, plasteel is an elastic material that combines many of the qualities of plastics and metal. It is relatively cheap to produce and can be used to augment ship armor. Right, so this is basically a freebie. It would have been nice to get the cruisers, but... Uh-oh. Titanic life. The native life of Wentworked Artem is built on an epic scale, far larger than anyone previously thought was possible for biological life. The question now in the minds of our researchers is, what is their secret and can we benefit from it? Proposals to study the native life in greater detail are flooding in, so proceed with the study.
Log updated.
21 months. What are we giving up in order to do it? We got to do the galactic bureaucracy first. Terraforming candidate discovered. Our detailed survey of StarMag 4 has revealed that it may once have supported life in the distant past. There are significant deposits of frozen water at the polar ice caps and beneath the planet's surface. The existence of valley networks suggests that the water may have once flowed freely. Terraforming this planet would theoretically be possible, but we do not yet possess the technology to accomplish this monumental task within a realistic time frame. All right, let's get the upgrade out of the way now. I do need to invest more in my offensive capabilities now that we know that there are other
Vessels upgraded.
Now that we know that there are other species in the galaxy, and they are not quite within shooting range, but I want to be prepared.
Technology secured.
All right, optimal processing of mine minerals have allowed us to reach new levels of efficiency. So we could do standardized destroyer patterns. This is actually pretty tempting. Oh, I think we get this free.
Technology secured.
Establishing new standards for modeling and construction of destroyers greatly improves the efficiency of the production pipeline. I don't think we're quite ready to spend 224 months on this yet. I am tempted to do the cruisers, but the fusion missiles are just so cheap. So I always want to keep a quick eye on available jobs. Too much slack. I think I can afford to boost the speed a little bit, but I would like to think a little bit about where I'm going to build my star bases. So right now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 worlds. So the problem here is that if I try to build a star base on every world, I'm going to be short for defense. I need at least 3. Well, here's what I can do. We'll start with... We'll upgrade the one on Wentworth. I feel like Gribben and Intham both deserve one because of their trade capacity. We apologize, patron Cal Bascool. We have sadly reached something of a creative roadblock. The Enclave is in disarray, and we have nothing to offer at this time. We thank you for your patronage as always. So we could demand a refund, or we could say we hope the situation improves. So this will have some energy implications, but I think it was, I think this is long overdue. Our much needed science ships on the way.
Charted.
Cyanin is now the new appeal. Alright, the echoes inside. A single worm-like creature of our gargantuan proportions is responsible for the tunnels dug, or rather eaten, through the crust of Moscat 7. The process is slowing down, most likely because the giant worm is slowly starving. It is responsible for the dead vegetation. Once it fed by burrowing close to the surface and excreting an enzyme that broke down organic matter, which seeped into the soil to nourish the beast. The worm is not indigenous to Moscat 7, and as yet, we have no clue as to how it ended up on this planet. Keep digging. Alright, anomaly. 6467399 has been partially hollowed out and carved with exquisite precision. There is something familiar about the lines and curves etched into this rock. I'm sitting on a big stack of alloys right now, so I'm trying to find good uses for them, but not necessarily ones... not necessarily ones that, like, I don't want to just commit myself to a bunch of star bases that I might dismantle. So we're building 3 right now. That gives me 3 for my my defensive positions. Okay, an odd factor. A group of investigators have found a hidden factory on Wentworth, Artem. This building is in a state of decay and tells of an old civilization once that excelled at constructing things that stood the test of time. Our population would easily be able to use this facility to add to the colony's production output. Alright, so we are short on, or we're out of jobs now. Wait, oh, we've got a specialist pop, that's why. Well, that doesn't make sense.
Construction complete.
Worm is not indigenous to this planet. Is this a reference to Dune? There's sometimes... yes, there definitely are... There are definitely planets that are... there are definitely planets that are references to other science fiction stories. I don't know if that's supposed to be a sandworm or not, though. Okay, we'll build on Lambda Serpentis again. I'm trying to grab the systems that I want. Sparran and Lifeless World is showing signs of once having supported a biosphere. Familiar shrine. Most of the asteroid has been laser chiseled with great precision into the likeness of a small Imitharian temple, or a large shrine. a shrine to the Untold, the great destroyer deity of old Imitharian faiths. The temple has been tumbling through the quiet of space for far longer than we have been capable of spaceflight, which is disturbing at best, terrifying at worst. Naturally, Science Officer Maki Dakara urges us to search for more stellar objects that match the characteristics of this space temple, and has uploaded a list of likely candidates in nearby systems to the situation log. Perhaps it would be best if we did not, or then a look and we will go.
Situation log updated.
All right. Our detailed survey of Kasmathon 4A has revealed that it may once have supported life in the distance past, and there are significant deposits of frozen water at the polar ice caps beneath the moon's surface. Beneath the moon's surface. The existence of valley networks suggests that the water may once have flowed freely. Terraforming this moon would theoretically be possible, but we do not yet possess the technology to accomplish this monumental task within a realistic time frame. But always nice to know we have the option.
Anomaly found.
I probably should have finished the survey first and then moved in. So, on the surface of EUD-64D sits what appears to be a large machine of unknown origin and purpose. It will be known. Okay, so we are waiting on Yunar. I am going to move the Senate floor is in session. The Galactic community is now voting on a new resolution to decide if it will become galactic law.
Anomaly found.
And a naturally deliberate geometric configuration of minerals drifts through the debris belt by T-94 and is possibly of alien origin. Okay, the readied shield. It looks like there's more or less universal support for this, so I will throw myself behind it. It doesn't hurt to have the extra cap anyway, but I would have liked some more intelligence in terms of where we're at with the other species. Speaking of, how's our spying efforts going? Growing.
Technology secured.
An alien machine. Further scans suggest the machine is still operational, though its purpose remains entirely unclear. Science Officer Vaki Jakir has never seen anything like it. Some of its materials look familiar, but most are strange and utterly alien as the design of its components. The machine has what appears to be a console, with one item in particular standing out, a large crooked lever of unknown material. Pull the lever or take it apart. Man, both are tempting, but we'll pull the lever. Energy spike. As our scientists pulled the lever, the machine emitted a huge blast of energy that multiplied in shockwaves, twisting and rippling through the void, tearing open a wormhole in Intham. Oh boy. Okay, good. I've got a station being built there. After the residuous energy diffused the wormhole, an immediate area around it settled and now appear to be stable enough for safe passage. As for what awaits us on the other side, our scientists are not so sure. The machine itself has since returned to its inactive state and no longer gives off any anomalous readings. How strange? Now take it apart. Or intriguing. Research the machine. But where is the... EUD-64D. Okay, let's try this another approach. So we'll go by the name of the researcher, Vaki Jakir. Really? The other science ship. So what I'm trying to decide right now is whether or not I realistically have a chance of adding this 7 research to my... Yeah, we'll research the machine, but it does give me a really strong reason to expand out here. Okay, researching the anomaly. We've got galactic bureaucracy, so I'm going to try and take the opportunity if I can to do the research. However, it is also worth saying that I've got telepathy coming up. So I've at least expanded my admin cap, and the base intel level's higher as well, which is nice. So multiple administrative strata efficiently surface only the most vital information to the upper levels of government. We have psionic army, so that's going to give me... Well, it's going to give me better troops. 76 months. I feel like terraforming... Yeah, this is... It's a bit early, but I think it's worth it for us to go. I am, however, going to research the Titanic life. The Prince, a gentle orbit around the massive T-94, floats a portable databank scooped up by the ISS Tabomka. It is found to contain text in some alien language. The vocabulary is not wholly unfamiliar, but the syntax is disconcertingly complex. Science Officer Tik Jakir recommends a more thorough study to decipher the text contents and origins. Analyze it on Quantus.
Situation log updated.
This one we'll do in the 6 months. I believe this will be a text from another species. So it'll be interesting to see how they change this one for Nemesis, because I think there's a reasonable argument to say that if you've read this work from another species, you may gain some insight into them, so there might be an intel bonus. Mind you, it is also an old document, right? So like what would a species learn about us reading Machiavelli today? Wentworth Starbase has finished its construction queue. Okay. It's just warning me about my consumer goods. We'll buy those right now.
Star system charted. Construction complete. Construction complete.
Okay, let's take a look at what we can do. So I can benefit from additional trade. I think I'll start with a trade hub.
Star system
Gribben,
charted.
for the same reason, we'll do a trade hub. Now, there's less of a reason for me to put a trade hub here, so I suppose I should at least have some kind of defensive... Well, do I need defensive?
Vessels upgraded.
I'm just taking a quick look to see if there's anything special that I've got in any of my star bases.
Construction complete.
Nope. So, building the mining stations because we're waiting for the expansion. Again, jobs for days in the Empire, so I can make new colonies because they will give birth to new people, but I really shouldn't be building new buildings until I've got
Star system charted.
until I've got my necessities covered. Okay, another wormhole. The number of wormholes in that'll potentially be within my borders is a little concerning.
Construction complete.
I'm more or less committed
Technology
to
secured.
going all the way up to Yunnan. While scanning the asteroid belt, our science team found some sort of irregularity.
Construction complete.
Okay, Hyperdrive 2, I believe, is going to require an upgrade. We have identified the existence of points of space where a ship expends less energy to breach their way into a hyperlane. This will lead to a new generation of hyperdrives. Okay, better encryption, which is pretty much a default yes for me. Experimental subspace navigation. Solitary science ships can break out of naturally occurring hyperlane. Tempting, but no. There's so many good purples, but in this case I'm going to go for quantum firewalls. And I want to see a little bit more about what's going on with... So gather information... Hell plus difficulty. Okay. So our operatives will compile information on the Vitirius Hive, delivering an intelligence report when complete. Assigning an asset to this operation will skew the results towards your interests. Yeah, so this just simply isn't gonna work until I'm better positioned. So their encryption is challenging relative to our code breaking. When conducting espionage on them, we experience these effects. Minus 20 maximum infiltration level, minus 20% daily infiltration progress, and plus 2 to operation difficulty. Their code breaking is routine relative to our encryption. Wow! So these guys have to be an advanced start.
Construction complete. Construction complete.
That's a bit of a worry that we put so much effort into maintaining our sort of encryption and decryption, and they still have that advantage. I think we're going to upgrade to star holds for everything. Well, it is rare for psionic powers to manifest after adolescence. It is not unheard of. Scientist Dimi Jumak has recently been displaying abilities that were suspected to be psionic in nature. After undergoing a thorough ESP test, she's been identified as a Class 4 psionic talent. Hey, strategist in hiatus.
Star system charted.
Okay. I'm really trying to think of the different ways I can stop myself from stagnating. I mean, one thing would be to gain a technological advantage, which means I shouldn't be expanding out as rapidly. But the thing is if I give up these really good opportunities now, I may not be able to get them again. So I'm going to try and earn my way out of these problems. Still bleeding consumer goods. Oh, well, I don't want that one. Yeah, lots to do, but...
Tactical retreat.
Uh-oh, what's going on here?
Construction complete.
I'm kind of okay with that being a natural boundary. All right, further scans. This is the same event, Tillman, that you were asking about, the sandworm. Further scans of the planet's surface picked up a single artificial structure. It appears to be an old abandoned science outpost of alien design, and it stands alone in a desert of dust and ash. Spectacularly translated research logs speak of a biological terror weapon, one that lies dormant in the soil of a planet until activated. It then begins to consume the whole ecosystem with devastating speed. The unfortunate beings living there see their once verdant home turned inexorably into a lifeless desolation. One excerpt is particularly ominous. The larva seeding project is on schedule, and soon most of the known habitable planets in the galaxy will have a sleeper. Worrying. All right, that means I should have a free ship. Let's build our mining station and then queue up the next starbase. What's going on here? Okay. Looks like there's still archaeology to be done, so let's worry about that first.
Technology secured.
These updated space-to-space missiles have more powerful fusion warheads and improved flight performance. Habitat's kind of tempting. Alloy megaforges would be something I would normally be interested in, but maybe not quite now. I think for this one I'm just going to kick the can down the road. So we'll do alloy megaforges, but I don't actually want to build these yet. I am, however, going to see if there's some interesting engineering projects. Let's do... No, it's all physics. Okay, adrift. Among the asteroids surrounding E49112, we have discovered an alien ship adrift. It is not responding to our attempts to hail them. If this is due to it being unable to interpret our signal or some other reason, we do not know. Science Officer Maki Dakara recommends that we get a construction ship to tow it out of the debris field. If left untouched, it risks being crushed by the asteroids. A special project has been issued to save the ship and investigate it. So we could scrap it for minerals. Again, we are drowning in minerals, so I don't really want to worry about those. But I do need to get a construction ship in the area, and pretty quickly. Oof, that's... Okay, well... Wait, really? 45 days? How would they... No, okay, that's more like it. So that's 1,000 days. It's gonna take us how long? Yeah, screw your current objective. I order you to stop. Don't disband, just stop. There we go. Just in time. Well, I mean, it doesn't have to be a perfect fit, but it's, you know, like, as you pointed out, this game definitely has some very clear references to other science fiction. Like it does. If I kind of feel like if Stellaris wants to directly reference something, it usually doesn't feel the need to be subtle about it. But I mean, one lesson for me, I've been getting a little bit better lately, actually, especially after all the conversations in chat about reading and such. I've been getting a little bit better at like knocking through some of the books that I've had on my to-do list. And one of the things I'm actually going to be carving out is some proper time for like some science fiction reading.
Special project complete.
Oh. Titanic life study success. After a period of research and study, the scientists on Wentworth Artem have managed to make a breakthrough and achieve limited communication with some of the Titans. While huge, slow, and difficult to talk to, the Titans are incredibly tough and strong. Some few have expressed a desire to join our military forces, where they will undoubtedly be an incredible asset. Okay, this is great.
Construction complete.
I'm going to recruit those right away.
Star system charted. Vessels upgraded.
All right, always good news there.
Upgraded.
Oh, crap.
Situation log updated.
Old gods approaching the Percipient. The other science ship has entered the Yanin system, and its crew report that a stellar object not unlike a shrine to the untold is indeed orbiting the star. Actually, here's a fun one. I have a feel like Strategist and I know, Tillman, you'll have some opinions on this, but I feel like Strategist and Hiatus will probably have some too. There have been a lot of really good science fiction authors that have been mentioned in the patch, like the patch names for Stellaris. I originally kind of set a bit of a goal for myself of reading one work by each of the science fiction authors.
Updated.
And unfortunately, I've got a few books that I got through the used bookstore, but I definitely have not been keeping up with them. So I am curious. It doesn't have to be one that's been referenced in Stellaris. Some of the authors, I think there's been a Douglas Adams one, Ian Banks. I think Chapek was one of the more recent ones. There's been Philip K. Dick for this one. Heinlein, Asimov. Has Bradbury been one yet? I feel like Bradbury was one of the... Oh, that's right. Bradbury didn't have a... I don't think it had a DLC associated with it. I think it was just a big patch. Anyways, one way or the other, if you had to recommend one, especially because in the last couple of streams, people were talking about science fiction that they either like or that they, that they would recommend. Was it 1.7? Okay. What would be your one recommendation for chat? Either to just show off how smart you are, or something where it's like, I really want you all to read this good, this good book or this good author. The ISS Devarik has entered the Bourse system, and its crew report that a stellar object not unlike the Shrine to the Untold is indeed orbiting the star. I seem to remember one of these triggers a combat scenario. And actually,
Special
to
project complete.
prime the conversation, we can take a quick look in the wiki. The print's legible. The text, its title roughly translates to regional ruler, is written in a presumably ancient dialect of the Giroan tongue, spoken in the Giroid High Kingdom, which is a faction we wanted to get in touch with, because they're authoritarian and spiritualist. The text is doubtlessly of some historical import to them and might contain valuable insights. So let us divine the secrets they need not know, or we will return it to its proper owners. Hail them. We understand that you have found the only surviving copy of The Prince, a text of significant historical and cultural importance to our people. We thought it irrevocably lost to a pirate raid years ago, but we are grateful to see that it has found its way into civilized hands. Will you return it to us? We will gladly transfer some energy credits for your trouble. Oh, I'm happy about that. So that is worth quite a bit more than it used to be. I do eventually want to improve relations with these folks, but I think I need to leave it be for now. I want everybody to read R. Scott Baker, and that's how smart you are. SMRT. Smat. Strategist in Hiatus says, personally, I love sci-fi short story compilations. Oh, that's a. I wasn't thinking of that, but that's a really good way. The greats always are amazing, but you like how some authors put forward an idea only in a few thousand words. Well, I mean, a lot of the Philip K. Dick that I've read has actually been through his short story collections, and then I was reading some Ray Bradbury, similar argument. So you can always do the greats and still live in short stories. And it's actually funny that you mention it, because I think one of the really big factors in terms of where I'm thinking about where people might be getting some of their future science fiction. I'm just thinking about the stuff that I've read. On Netflix, they've got their series Love, Death, and Robots, which there's definitely some eye-rolling stuff inside of it. But one of the big features about Love, Death, and Robots has been that it's been this... They've kind of just been trolling these collections of short stories and getting some really good ones. So some of the more memorable episodes for me have been... have had their origins as science fiction stories. Or like science fiction short stories that I hadn't even necessarily heard about. But, you know... They've sort of found this new life in terms of being a movie. So, I read Forever Kitten by Peter Hamilton. I have not, no. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure as everybody sort of figured from my speech patterns, I'm maybe not the best suited for short stories, but it's a fantastic form, and it really seems that some of the best have really delivered in it. All right, I'm kind of curious now just to look at the names of the patches. Oh, did they not? Okay, let's see what 1.1 was. Okay, 1.1 was Clark. 1.2 is Asimov. 1.3 was Heinlein. 1.4 was Kennedy. Oh, of course, because of the Horizon signal. 1.5 was Banks. 1.6 was Adams. 1.8 Chapek, because of the Synthetic Dawn updates. 0.9 Boole. Oh, right, okay, Humanoids. I actually don't know that name. Does it say who that is? It didn't mention it. That's a pity. I know sometimes the Twitter account mentions it. 2.0 Chera. I think I pronounced that incorrectly, but Distant Stars was Niven, Ringworld. 2.2 Ligin, okay. Probably should have remembered that one. Ancient Relics, Wolf. I don't think I know that one either. Okay, Lee. Shelley. Arguably the first. Vern. Well, wow, I've been really far behind on some of these patches. Wells. And... Are we in Butler? No, Butler was for Necroids. We're in 3 now. Murderbot Diaries are short novellas that are very good. This is why I like streaming. You guys do a very good job of showing me all of the little gaps that I need to fill in. Sorry if that wasn't interesting to anyone else, but I was a little curious how the names. You can also recommend Jerry Pornell's Moat in God's Eye. That's a longer work, or is that a short story? All right, Shrine to the Precipient. Science Officer Vaki Jakir has reported back with the From Beyond's findings at the Precipient's Shrine. They recognized early on that a text of some logographic script is inlaid in the walls, heavily distorted by layers of translucent lacquer. Initial attempts at unscrabbling the text, relying on the raw processing power of the From Beyond's computers to reconstruct the text from plain images, proved fruitless, as it was simply too distorted to place in any known lingual family tree. Next, the crew of the From Beyond attempted bombarding the lacquer with light of varying wavelengths and intensity, but no beneficial reactions were observed. Vaki Jakir apparently considered physically separating the lacquer from the inlaid text, but realized that the strange glyphs would doubtlessly have been made misshapen to begin with, only to assume their proper shape when viewed correctly through the lens of the lacquer. Science Officer Vaki Jakir was about to call the mission a failure when, looking up as they irritably paced along the edges of the circular space, they realized that discrete lines of cohesive text were momentarily forming before their eyes, melting away only to be replaced by new lines. Not long after, they had the ceiling, walls, and floor imaged in a spiral pattern. Texts from other shrines should help us piece it all together. Hey, how you doing, AJRJ? Thank you for your tweet. I appreciate the call back to my silly comments. How you doing? For those of you, I know I've talked about AJRJ before, but I did want to take a quick minute here and say I know of them because of their role as a community manager at Brace Yourself Games, the fine producers of Crypt of the Necrodancer, Cadence of Hyrule, Industries of Titan, and Phantom Brigade, along with all their other secret projects that they're working on, which totally exist and nobody's allowed to talk about. But AJRJ is a streamer themselves, and I had originally watched their stream of Bug Snacks, which is an amazingly weird game. I really want to try it now. I think it was Jared who pointed out that it's by the same developers of Octodad. If you've played that, I think you'll probably know what you're getting into. I have streamed Octodad. I had a great time with it. But I'm pretty sure I streamed it. This is back when I was streaming on a Mac still, I think. But I did not... So I knew that AJRJ played Pokemon, and I knew that he played it competitively, but I did not appreciate the depths. So I don't mean to speak too highly of myself, or I don't mean to like oversell, but I do know that a few of you like my tendency to go in very deep in certain games. And for some games, I've gotten sort of a commendation in terms of just being able to play somewhat complicated games and be able to explain them, go into some degree of depth, and just generally kind of do that sort of thinking so you don't have to. And let me just say that nothing I have done holds a candle to the level of detail that Jared puts into Pokemon Thought. It was wonderful to see him game out his plans for his tournament, which he won, by the way. It was really great to sort of see this description of what how do I put it? Like, just kind of to sort of see just an example of what competitive, I don't know, just kind of the thought process behind competitive play. Because like obviously, like I used to like playing Dota. I would watch the professional games and such. But I would definitely say that it's sometimes different. Like if it's a professional player, sometimes they're still just putting on a show. They're not necessarily going to go into explicit detail in terms of exactly how they're thinking about it. And while I've never played Pokemon, the enthusiasm that he had for the game, as well as his description of his approach, was a lot of fun for me to watch. Is there a record? I believe there... you can, if you check out his channel, if there was a VOD, you should be able to click on it and... it should be usually Twitch will keep it for 2 weeks, but I definitely don't want to speak out of turn. Anyways, one way or the other, a man of many talents. Clip the presentation part and then the battle itself. Nice. But yeah, needless to say, it's fun to, I don't know, this is one thing I really like about people who stream and people who sometimes come and hang out in the stream. As we were sort of learning through people's descriptions of their favorite science fiction stories, which, by the way, if you are interested, Jared, feel free to mention one yourself. You get to find out all these other little things that people are either really good at or things that they're passionate about. And you just kind of get to... People are like onions. So again, I have a lot of friends who are really into Pokemon, but for myself, it's not something that I've personally played. So it's neat to be able to gain an appreciation through another stream. All right, the entire surface of the small asteroid is covered in robot debris trapped in its weak gravity field. All of it appears military in nature, and there are enough combat droids here to outfit several armies had they not been shattered beyond all repair. All right, let's work on that last shrine, and then I can double back and survey.
Star system charted.
Yeah, I came in part way through that presentation, so I probably should be watching that on its own. Speaking of PowerPoints, I still need to make my PowerPoint for the presentation on Wednesday, but I will be sure to host the channel when the meetup happens. Okay. So right now, again, I'm trying to find the limits of my expansion. So I think this will probably be it.
Special project complete.
Shrine to the Benefactress. Deciphering the pictograms in the Benefactress Shrine was a much smoother process than anticipated. All linguists involved described the language quickly connecting or clicking in their minds, despite its age and complexity. However, the writings are unlikely to make much sense until they are combined with the other writs associated with the rest of the Quadrumvirate Godhead.
Situation log updated.
Old gods approaching the Undaunted. The other space science ship has entered the... It's called the Other Science Ship because it's populated by the Others. Has entered the Borobo system, and its crew report that a stellar object not unlike the Shrine to the Untold is indeed orbiting the star. Okay, so this is one where normally the science ship would kind of go to the center of the system and then run away. What I'll do here, and those of you who've been hanging out from the beginning already know this, if I hit Control Shift and research, I still use the right click and push the button because it's a little bit clearer for people watching the stream to know what action I took. But basically, Control Shift will put it up at the top of the queue, where the Shift click will put it at the end of the queue. I don't think that's limited to Stellaris, by the way. It's just very convenient for Stellaris, for me at least. And how you doing, Mosquito Controller? Welcome back. Okay, fine with that, fine with that. Let's get the Deveric back on track. So we've hit kind of a limit here until we... I mean, the shardlings are not going to be the hardest thing for me to deal with, but it wouldn't hurt to have my military in the area just in case something happens with our hive mind friends. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to redirect my science ship to start filling in the gaps that we eventually want to claim. I do have somebody working on this, right? Nope. Oh, because I don't own it yet. By the way, I did want to take a second and thank you folks for following through when the shoutouts happen. I sort of accept that not everybody who I shout out is going to be appealing to everyone else. But I really do try my best to sort of give you an idea in terms of some factors that at least I found interesting about broadcasters. And the same goes for, you know, artists like the Eyes of Sin. I know the Eyes of Sin she makes a living doing the emote work, and obviously, you know, the pandemic hasn't exactly been the kind of... And I mean, let's face it, like, making a living as a freelance artist is already quite difficult. So the thing is that I kind of know that I tend to make quite a few asks in terms of people's attention, and I always present it with an understanding that probably the majority of people are not going to follow through on those kinds of recommendations. But I do also occasionally get some feedback, either from somebody saying, hey, you know, I saw a bump in, you know, in traffic or whatever. A small one, obviously. I know my influence is limited. But it does mean that you're all going out and sort of supporting these people, even if it just means giving them a shot. And even if you decide it's not for you, the fact that you tried actually does mean something. You know, I'm less interested in like getting credit for that sort of thing, so much as the fact that I really like that as a whole, you've been open to new stuff, and it's meant that some people kind of feel a bit better. Because I know for me, it's always, if you do broadcasts, it tends to be the sort of thing. If more people see it, they like it. All right. An odd factor. No reports of any problems have been issued from the odd factory on Wentworth Artem. It seems like the colony will maintain the projected production estimates. Oh, this is interesting. So I've always associated the odd factory with like weird stuff happening, but apparently there's a bunch of normal outcomes as well, which I've never experienced. That, or they're just setting me up for disaster. Okay. For some reason, we seem to be getting on better on consumer goods. I guess that's because Lemsa is starting to ramp up in production. No, that can't be true because... So I guess it means that Intham is just filling in more of its roles. That's of course going to hurt when we convert it to an alloy refinery, or a forge world, but... I was trying to think of your favorite sci-fi, but I really had to reach because you don't often look at fiction. I have the same problem myself. Stranger Things came to mind, even though it's not exactly sci-fi. It's sort of, I think it's close enough. I mean, this is the big challenge that I think a lot of science fiction will run into, which is like, I don't know what the kind of the consensus on this is, but my feeling would be, Ruby Red Blaze asks, what is the Black Codex? Does it have cute girls in it? If it doesn't have cute girls in it, then what's the point of it in the first place? Well, see, maybe that just happens to be the reason for all of the... Maybe that just happens to be the reason for all of the encryption. But I probably should read the backstory to the Black Codex again. Welcome, by the way. But yeah, no, like, I don't know what the consensus on this is, but like my candidate for first science fiction story would be Frankenstein. It seems to sort of fit the mold. But, probably not the first story you think of when you think of, of science fiction. H.P. Lovecraft, I think pretty clearly would fall under science fiction if you sit down and think about it. But again, people don't necessarily associate that with science fiction, at least at the first guess. I also think you could make an argument, film series like Jurassic Park. Well, I know it's not just a film series. I know it's a book first, but like Jurassic Park to me seems to be something that would count as science fiction. And so if a genre can be broad enough to include, to my mind at least, Metropolis, Blade Runner, Jurassic Park, Frankenstein, and the works of H.P. Lovecraft, I definitely don't think people should be sort of casting stones when it comes to what counts. What is it? So I actually have to admit, for my love of classics, I have read the Iliad. I have not read the Odyssey. What is it that makes the Odyssey a work of science fiction, out of curiosity? That's not to challenge the definition. I've never heard this before, so I'm interested. It's also really embarrassing that I've not read the Odyssey, but I'm working on it, don't worry. You really don't know what this game is. Well, no worries. I will explain in a moment, but somebody just dropped a bomb on me here. So, Old Gods Shrine to the Undaunted. After days of activities that can be best termed fiddling, Science Officer Vaki Jakir has retrieved the Doctrine of the Undaunted, a textile scroll coated in a sturdy plastic polymer. Old Gods, Revelation. The complete doctrine of the gods, for that is what the recovered texts have come to be regarded as, dwarfing the fairy tale scraps upon which the old Imitharian religions were founded, is as shockingly revelatory as it is revolutionary. With only a little bit of creative interpretation, it is clear that the people of Quantos were meant for greater things, guided by the strong hand of a religious leader. Our path is one to godhood, but our past is littered with prophecies unfulfilled and sin born of ignorance. Redemption is ephemeral. So we could suppress the findings. Knowledge is power. Secret knowledge is secret power. Ends the shrines to the old gods event chain and gets us 80 influence. Monetize the monetize the findings, which would be my normal path. Some of the wealthier faith corporations have caught wind of the affair and are very interested. But what can we learn from this? Regardless of the veracity or validity of the sacred text, the fact remains that we share religious concepts with some older unknown spacefaring race, or we walk in the footsteps of the divine, start a religious renaissance shifting the Empire ethics towards spiritualist, and gain unity. I'm actually probably going to be leaning towards that, but let's just make sure. Yep, the Church of the Religious... what is it? Church of the Religious Conservatism. We walk in the footsteps of the divine. Okay. Now that I do know about the Greeks. Although I suppose it would raise the question then, would something like the Old Testament be considered science fiction? In sort of the similar sense. I know some people will have issues with the idea of, like, you know, Homer and the Old Testament not quite being comparable, but I think you kind of at least get where I'm going with that. All right, so we had questions about what the Black Codex is. So one of the things I like to do in Stellaris is to come up with a little bit of a backstory for the the species that I'm working with. This one actually wound up sort of working in the opposite way. So I sometimes try to build up these traits, or sorry, I try to build up the species. So I either have a story I want to tell and I write that out, and then I come up with traits that will reinforce the backstory, or sometimes I will pick some traits and then I'll build a story around that. So here is, and again, I was kind of writing this in a little bit of a rush. I kind of feel the quality of the writing has gone down over time, but here's the backstory for the Black Codex. Accurately separating the facts and legends about the Black Codex would require membership, and anything less than membership in the higher orders would only be accurate about 60% of the time. Reputed members have ranged from Rhizome Capital's most popular televangelist, Francis Baybury, to the unnamed head of the intelligence services of the Blessed Ilari Grand Duchy. The greatest cryptographers have been stymied by the Black Codex's use of metaphorical ciphers, while the great philosophers of lesser empires lack the computational power to bear witness to the labyrinthine sermons of Matriarch Bethen. The Black Codex knows and keeps all. What they do with the information remains to be seen. And so the idea behind the Black Codex is this idea that it's sort of it's a religious order dedicated to the sort of the keeping and preservation of secrets. So the idea here would be, so if you think of somebody like Pythagoras or Plato and this, they take math very seriously. You can kind of imagine that. So these would be people who are very comfortable with branches like information theory. So they'd feel quite comfortable talking about different algorithms and such. But they also see it as part of a religious experience. And this would sort of be religions that are not just a matter of, you believe enough, but these ones that are very esoteric. You need to study, you need to understand and kind of get to the bottom of things. And it's sort of the blending of these two ideas running together. And I really like the idea here because this update added in a bunch of new espionage features. I sort of liked the implication that membership in this order like it wasn't just a species-based thing, that it is possible that the kinds of people who would maybe become spy masters in other species would be attracted to this secret society. So you can kind of think like Freemasons or whatever. But the oh, thank you, Mosquito Control. Unless that wasn't for me, but thank you if that was intended for the backstory. It's also worth remembering that there's 2 references to species that I've built earlier on in the game. Oh, thank you. If I have time, I'll go over some of the older ones, but I feel like at some point I should probably just do my grand melee of all the different species running into each other. But the other thing that was interesting about this one was we went for an origin, and so we picked an origin which said that it was a sort of the remnants of an ancient space empire. So the idea here might be that this used to be the intelligence services of an older empire which collapsed, and either through sort of the passage of time or because it was always like this, it wound up taking on this, these religious overtones. So obviously, I mean, if you go on the VODs, I've had lots of different descriptions in terms of some of the ideas. So, I have my own interests in terms of things such as classics. There would also be, if you look at the Bible, if you look at things like Gnosticism, Tillman was the one to correctly identify that this wasn't just me coming up with a crazy story, but some of this does actually have a bit of resonance with the author that this patch is named after, Philip K. Dick. Which, again, I try not to be, like, there's a way that you can just be a smug jerk about this sort of stuff and, like, just get high on your own cleverness. But I do, with some of the other games that I play as well, things like Cultist Simulator, like every once in a while I try and put just like a nice little spin on a new touch. Sometimes they're very silly things, like when I was doing the Steam stream for that one of my character names was HP StarCraft. But, hey, Dexter Yap, I do. You've also been here, you were here recently, weren't you? How have you been enjoying Night Team 4? I actually haven't been able to catch up. That's wonderful. I actually haven't caught up with the game. That is really cool that you took a degree in computer science. I don't know if I still have the developer's email, but if you don't mind, I will actually let them know that you did that. That's very, very cool, Dexter. I really appreciate you telling me that. Thank you. Sorry, guys. I totally got sidetracked, but that's such a wonderful thing to learn. That's really great to hear. I'm not much of a programmer myself. I do know programming, and I wish I could get better. But I tend to use my programming for, my immediate needs, like my data work. So I should probably, I don't know, maybe you can teach me something when you get your degree. Actually, one of my students is getting her PhD in computer science now. And again, just somebody who's vastly outpaced me in pretty much every field. Anyways, I'm sorry, I totally got thrown off topic. But yeah, so that's the species that I'm working with. It's the continental preference was something that the game gave me. We now have latent psionics, so we're better at science, we're better at energy, and we went for... Why did I go for bioadaptability? No, sorry, this is something that happened to us later. So we didn't go for bioadaptability. We said they were intelligent, they were traditional, they were communal. Again, the idea of sort of monasteries and things like that. You were able to get many opportunities like an early internship in IT. Again, well done. And then we said slow breeders. And I'm trying to remember, I think it was because membership was so difficult. Like the idea of trying to get people who would actually be capable of sort of understanding. Oh yeah, sorry, that was the other thing. The way that I imagine code working in this is that not only are they very good at cryptography, but there is this idea when we talk about the metaphorical ciphers, like these are the kinds of people who expect you to have read. You know how kind of like if you read literature now, so if you read something like Paradise Lost, there's sort of an like Milton has this assumption that you know what's in the Bible, and that some of the references in Paradise Lost are like, they're not clear if you don't have that background. If you have read Ovid's Metamorphosis, Shakespeare just takes on an entirely new dimension. And so the idea here would be that the members of the Black Codex would be equally comfortable in it. And that is actually why their communications are so difficult to read, because assuming that you could wrap your head around the encryption, you have all of your work ahead of you trying to figure out what the hell they're saying. Here follows the latest newsletter to all our patrons. Sadly, nothing much has been produced in the Enclave. Most of the artists have fallen into a deep melancholy from where no inspiration can be drawn. The mood is dire, but hopeful. Creation takes time, after all. Any donations that might help the group rekindle their interest in the material plane again would be of tremendous help. So this is... I actually quite like this event. So for me, unless I'm really desperate for money, I almost always go for we would like to donate, because influence is hard to come by. Being able to basically buy, I mean, it's about 10 credits, right, per influence. That's not that expensive in the grand scheme of things. And essentially what I kind of figure is I'm buying time in this case here, right? So it would take me 10 months in order to gain that. Well, I get 69 a month. Nice. Yeah, it's going to be... I think there's very few situations in which I think this trade-off doesn't work. Of course, if it was closer to 1,000 influence, I might reconsider it, but we've got a bunch of expansion plans right now, so we'll donate.
Construction complete.
Where did that voice come from? Oh, right, because we went heavy on spiritualism. All right, well, let's work with it. We'll go with the hippie name, or with the hippie voice. You wish that you could read that on stream in a Scottish accent? Okay, are there any... This is going to be... can be science fiction related. Are there any Neil Stephenson fans in chat? There's a really good series that he did called The Baroque Cycle, and there's a passage with a Scottish gentleman that still amuses me. Okay, we get to pick a new branch. So Harmony, Domination. Domination does have some appealing. Does have some appealing features. But I really don't think I have a lot of people that I can vassalize right now. Okay, so Harmony, food consumption reduced by 10. Now, if I had edicts that would allow me to boost my growth, that would be worth it. Time it takes for unemployed pops to demote to a lower stratum reduced by 25. Well, I don't exactly want that. Governing ethics wouldn't be bad. Stability. Oh, right, and then the Empire Sprawl from Pops, so that might actually make it worthwhile. The blocker cost is kind of appealing. So diplomacy, diplomatic grants, diplomatic influence cost reduced by 50. Okay, available envoys would be attractive. And then supremacy is also kind of interesting just in terms of like the ship upkeep and naval capacity. But again, I'm not entirely convinced that this is what I need right now. Okay, do I have this? No, I don't. This is actually a really hard tradition for me to pick because there's a few appeals to all of them. So clear blockers is a big appeal for domination right now. Unfortunately, the rest of it is not so exciting. Harmony is tempting because of the like the stability and the food, but we're okay for food right now. Oh, sorry, it's the Empire Sprawl that I really liked. You know what? I'm gonna do Harmony. Yeah, Cryptonomicon's a really good one. Snow Crash is more pop. Well, at the very least, like it's definitely the one that sort of put him on the map. I don't know if the well, see, I've actually had a lot of uses for domination in the past. It's just my current scenario, I just don't see how I can make the most of it right now. I'm definitely not going to vassalize my I mean, back when the last time that they reworked domination, I just had like it felt like 80 vassals and the game was trivial. But I'll admit it's been a while since I've had a bunch of vassals. Oh, Galactic Market established. The center of galactic commerce has manifested in the Acolam system within the borders of the Zaxoid Stellar Confederation. The Zaxoan administration has officially legitimized this marketplace where resources can be bought and sold through unaffiliated third parties. Now, I had kind of thought that there was a... I'd thought that there was an opportunity for me to contribute to this sort of thing. But fair enough. So I'm going to get hit by some of those costs. And sorry, strategist, was that Cryptonomicon was the one that you picked up? It's a bigger one. The Baroque cycle is, if you like it, I think the Baroque cycle is a good follow-up because the characters in it are sort of the descendants of, or the ancestors of the characters in Cryptonomicon.
Construction complete.
It is a bit of an ask to read like 3 books the size of Cryptonomicon to continue on with the story. So, you know, there's a bit of a selection problem. But I thought they were quite the ride. So, which scientist did we lose? The one who was working on encryption. Do we have anybody who's good at computers? No. So we do have one with a brain slug. Actually, we have a few with a brain slug. We've got a genius. Man, we got a lot of geniuses running around. Okay. Maki Dakara gets the job. I'll just make sure that I don't have any, I don't have any spares. A lot of people crazy about biology. So I can have an actual psychic, or I can have somebody who's good at psionics. I normally like to go for younger researchers, but I'll also admit too, I have not read Cryptonomicon since cryptocurrencies became a thing, and I have a feeling that that book will be very different when I read it in 2020. You like audiobooks on 2.3 speed for easy reads and on 1.6 for hard reads. Yeah, my dad used to like to listen to it wasn't so well. There were a few audiobooks, but he actually really liked listening to old BBC like radio plays. So I'd hear like I'm trying to think of some of the name. Like they're all from like the 80s and 70s, I think. So I think Rumpole of the Bailey is one. Yes Minister and Yes Prime Minister. That one I actually really liked learning because there's a British TV series called The Thick of It, which is kind of like a modern version of Yes Minister. I thought it's really interesting to contrast the concerns of both of those series. But yeah, like I've actually heard more radio drama than I've heard audiobooks. Advances in computing technology have given us new ways to protect our data from prying eyes. All right, we got to catch up on our military, I think. So as much as I want the research alternatives, let's build the mining drone. The movie In the Loop, right? Yeah, so actually, for those of you, so I like The Thick of It as like a TV series, but for those of you who would like to, experience it, they did make a movie with one of the characters. So Peter Capaldi plays this director of communications and strategy named Malcolm Tucker. And like the movie is full of volcanic profanity and is just generally awesome. But basically it's sort of this comedic fictionalized account of the lead up to the war in Iraq. And I don't know, I think they do a really great job with it. Yeah, Jamie's lines. Bat builder? Spider builder?
System survey complete. System survey complete.
All right, what are we looking at here? So we're definitely getting a better idea of... All right, so let's grab Heimet. It'll probably be the last that I can claim. But honestly, it's not a bad place to set the boundaries. And I obviously know where to build the defensive starbase. So in terms of potential back doors, I'm a little worried about Misa. We'll eventually have to worry about Riser. Cosmathan. Now we've technically got Intham covered because we have a starbase here, although it's really close to the capital, so that's something I want to be worried. I want to like be conscious of that. Yeah, generally I just need more information about the neighboring
survey complete.
The neighboring species before I can start throwing my weight around in the galactic affairs. Uh-oh, the birth of space piracy. As interstellar trade between our systems continues to grow, a large group of faithless criminals from Quantos have illegally converted a number of civilian starships into weapons of war. These heretics have started calling themselves the Silver Fangs and are responsible for several attacks against our vulnerable trade routes on Thalasus. Their profane activities must not be allowed to continue.
One of our stations is beset by enemies.
Well, fortunately... This is a little bit of overkill, but... So there basically has to be something really compelling on Mestros for me to want to claim it. Oh, actually... The biggest reason for me to claim it would be to block them from being able to expand beyond here.
The spirits have granted us new wisdom.
Senate has voted on and passed the resolution, the Readied Shield. So I'm okay with that, given the fact that I already, I wanted the higher cap anyway. The question was just the diplomatic weight that comes from having a big fleet. Okay, we will take a look at the combat. Terraforming. Okay, so I want to keep an eye on what planets I can terraform to. There's no simple solution to the problem of macro-scale reshaping of planetary crusts, only bigger trowels and orbitally deployed drills. So, what do we have here? Hollow temple, so we can upgrade the temples, but we would need... Oh, crystals. Huh. Well, that is inconvenient, because I was expecting to use those crystals to get better bureaucracy. That's gonna require some thinking. I'm gonna do a stellar expansion, though, just for the better capacity. And let's see the magic happen. Oh, looks like we lost one of the ships, I think. Nope, I'm just not observant. Sorry for being horrifically intrusive. Have you been keeping a list of the sci-fi recommendations? I think those are valuable, not just mine. Yes, I have. I've been basically, I keep OBS open after the stream, and then I just, when there's a list of recommendations and stuff like that, I just kind of snip them. I used to have mods once upon a time, and they were really good at sort of keeping that stuff for me. But basically, I just kind of, like, it's one of the reasons I actually like it when the... It's one reason why I like the... It's one of the reasons why I like the conversation going on a little bit inside of the chat, because it's a nice reminder for me to get some of those... some of those...
The spirits have granted us new wisdom.
Some of those recommendations. Sorry, I'm stumbling over my words. But, for example, what I've got so far would be, there was Forever Kitten from you. There was Murderbot Diaries from C. McLaugh. Also, I don't think I said, I actually said hi to C. McLaugh. I think you said Moat in God's Eye. I didn't get the name written down, but I'll get it in the log. There's another. I know Strategist had recommended short stories, but I don't remember if there were specifics. Anyways, easy answer is yes, I have them, but I'll maybe save it for my own time. Now you can now see why I save the log for my own time, because it takes me a little bit to go through them. Alright, holographic carts. Alloy Megaforges solid holographic casts and can alter their shapes at a moment's notice, speeding up alloy production. Alright, so I'm kind of inclined towards the cruiser, especially given that I have the extra fleet capacity. Zroni Minor Colony. It was strangely difficult to locate the archive on Epsilon Indy 3, but once we did locate it, it was easy to see why it had been so elusive. The crystal had been shattered and contains no records that we can access. However, a faint signal suggests that there may have been something else to find here. Oh, actually, sorry, there was one thing that I forgot to mention. I think it was... Ruby Red Blaze, if you're still around. I think I said I was going to explain Stellaris to you, and then I never actually said it. So Stellaris is an example of a paradox grand strategy game. So if you've ever heard of a game like Crusader Kings or Europa Universalis, it's a science fiction version of one of those. But what's really neat about this one, because there isn't a... Oh man, these guys are huge. Now I can see why I'm ranking so low on the... We're at least pulling away from the Citizen Compact, but we have our work cut out for ourselves to not get run over. But yeah, what's neat about this one is everybody sort of starts from the same level. There are some advanced starts for the AI, but like generally, unlike a game which is based in history, where there's going to be, you know, the sum of human history to sort of lead to the state of the world that you start in. So for instance, if you're like Tanutuva in or Cuba in like Hearts of Iron 4, that's going to be very different than if you're like Germany or Japan or, you know, the United Kingdom. But in this case here, what you get with the kind of empty map and the first steps out into space is this wonderful blank canvas on which to tell whatever science fiction story you want. It's also smart on Paradox's part because, of course, if you want to make the Imperium of Man from Warhammer 40k, or if you want to make, you know, the Zerg from StarCraft, you can. They don't need to pay the licensing rights. They just need to enable the ability to create sort of a hive mind that consumes all available biomass, or, you know, a xenophobic, authoritarian, you know, religious order. You know, so it's neat. Like basically Stellaris is kind of all science fiction at once. And this is one of the reasons why I really like these little moments here, because there'll be story events that sort of let you kind of nudge where your species is going. So special project completed. Once the ship drifting by E49-112 had been towed out of the debris, we could send an away team to investigate. It is a murder scene. Only one crew member has been found, a long-eared amphibian biped who appears to have been stabbed repeatedly. The ship is, by the death of its crew, up for grabs. It is fitted with very efficient thrusters, the structure and design of which are beyond us at present. The vessel is not armed, seemingly having been used as a transport for important personnel. Repurposing it into an exploration vessel would be a minor undertaking. However, if we instead deconstruct it and study the engines in greater detail, we could maybe capture some of its genius and translate it into practical improvements for our own fleets. So we get a free science ship, or we can get an improvement to sublight speed. I think that's a permanent improvement. So honestly, for my purposes, like, a science ship's going to cost us what? 65, like... For 65 alloys, you know, I'm getting a 10% improvement to my sublight speed. That seems like a pretty good deal. Anyways, construction ship's done, so we're going to get back to our expansion plans.
System survey complete.
Right. I'm going to move up to the edge here. I think if it's the crystalline entities, they're just going to stay put. But I do want to put a science ship beside them just to make sure that everything else is closed off for me there. I guess that's another reason for me not to be doing the...
Construction complete.
Uh-oh. Vubasirum has died at age 104. They were really good at Voidcraft. There's none like them. Okay, so Genius is best. Yeah, I'll stick him in there. Too much social research. All right, so we'll build up our mining stations for a starter, although I may have to cancel that and claim Mestros. I wasn't originally going to take this, but the fact that we can sort of close off this species... I mean, they might get mad and throw ships at us, but it's a risk I'm willing to take to prevent them from being able to expand out. Oh, I keep wondering why stuff isn't happening. It's because it's paused.
System survey complete.
Ah, okay. Well, that answers that. So yeah, Mestros isn't exactly, like, it's not the most exciting one for me to check out, but I I think being able to slow down a rival's expansion. I bet you there's a border here. That's a pretty important factor. How are we for population growth? Generally okay. Gribben is going to need some more workers before too long. Really wish we had more people working here. And for whatever reason, I forgot to build the
system survey complete.
Gene clinic. So this is probably the first playthrough of Stellaris I've had where I've actually been building gene clinics. And the reason for that is just to overcome my my slow population growth. Okay. A wavering signal haunts Stalbrig 3A, though it does not seem to originate from the planet's surface. Thank you for that, Tillman. I'll probably just go through the chat, again too, just because it's nice to hear people's reasoning behind that. But I do appreciate the kind of the consolidated writings. I should also include Stranger Things from A. Jared J, because while I don't have Netflix, that doesn't mean I do where I can. I like to watch stuff that people are into, and obviously if somebody, I'm actually probably the only person I know who doesn't have a Netflix account. So if I get a chance to see, hello. Zaxoid Stellar Confederation has declared a rivalry with me. So be it. I should probably consider building the... the spy network on the actual threat. The Ransomeers, Emergency Boy. An emergency transmission buoy floats in gentle orbit around Dalberg 3A. Its outer casing is heavily damaged, seemingly by glancing weapons fire or powerful explosion. It might be an Imitharian model for civilian ships, designed to be ejected as an emergency measure should the comm systems fail, but the extent of the damage makes it impossible to know for certain. It is repeating a weak, distorted signal. Clean up the transmission.
Situation log updated.
Okay, what are we looking at? So again, Control Shift to do the research. And I am going to make a small adjustment to the envoys, so... I mean, I'm happy enough that we're improving relations, but we should probably... I think we're just going to get 2 spy networks built.
Special project complete.
Ransomeer's SOS. The buoy has been verified as one of Imitharian make, and the signal it's relaying has been stabilized. Imitharian authorities, identify yourselves. Hello? This is the captain of the Luxian, an Imitharian civilian transport. Former captain. The Luxian is gone. We were boarded by pirates and taken captive before they blew up the ship. Who captured you? I think they call themselves the Ransomeers? The Ransomeers. At any rate, they're a vile bunch. We'd all be dead already if they didn't think they could get something from us, for us from the Black Codex. I've overheard them discussing their demands. We will rescue you. Oh, thank you, Patriarch. We're being held in some space station, but I have no idea where we are beyond that. I'll increase the transmission burst now. It should let you triangulate the location of this prison from the emergency buoy.
Situation log updated.
All right. So we don't need to explore it. We can just send the fleet. I think in this case we'll just take the Vernala Starfleet. I don't think we need to bring everything all at once. Like, I'll just buy the extra consumer goods offhand. It may be. Let's see if we can get a trade deal.
Construction complete.
So, if I can get like 10. Cool. I don't want to rely on it, but we are reviewing your proposal.
System survey
The
complete.
Geroid High Kingdom has decided to accept your trade proposal. So let's just think a little bit about whether or not that was worth it, right? So we can sell, so we get 70 for 100. Let me just work out the numbers. So I was giving up 31 of those, right? So in principle, I'm getting about... Wait, what the hell is the math that I just did? All right, so I'm giving 21.7 worth. And each month... I'm getting 26, yeah. So I basically would have, I'm getting a better deal than if I just done this directly in trade. Obviously those prices don't stay constant either. Alright, well this is not going to be that hard to take out. There is going to be hell to pay as far as all of my expansion. But we knew that was coming. Oh, actually, there's one thing I should be doing right away, which is to build a defensive structure. So this is unquestionably the limits of my empire here. I'm going to need at least one more when I sort of find out where my boundaries are here. And then I'll be able to build 2 more. Most likely these will be built on the wormholes. Oh, that works perfectly, actually. So let's say that Yunin, or even Distul, is like the edge of my empire. That would mean...
System survey complete.
So theoretically what that would mean is Distul gets a base, Mestros gets a base, and then... So that's 2, so that would... Oh, hang on. Mestros, Distul... Ah. No, I messed that up. Technically, I need 5 more bases in a perfect scenario. Scientists revealed as psychic. While it is rare for psionic powers to manifest after adolescence, it is not unheard of. Scientist Vaki Jakir has recently been displaying abilities that were suspected to be psionic in nature. After undergoing a thorough ESP test, she has been identified as a Class 4 psionic talent.
The spirits have granted us new wisdom.
Well, now we've got the extra starbase capacity. Our future lies in the sea of stars. All very tempting. What's the cheapest? Either Xenodiplomacy or Interstellar Fleet Traditions. I think I'm going to do Interstellar Fleet Traditions. I've kind of neglected my... I've sort of neglected my military for long enough. Zroni Minor Colony, Strange Crystal. A much smaller psionic crystal has been located in some kind of laboratory. The Zeroni, who recorded their findings within, were extremely frustrated. Their research had been ridiculed by their peers and was largely discredited. They believed that the Zeroni were no longer the only entities in the Shroud, and that the collective fears and desires of their entire race were coalescing into distinct sapient entities. Desiring to grow stronger, these entities had begun to subtly influence the emotions and thoughts of suitable Zeroni, slowly causing their behaviors to become more extreme. This may have directly caused the Zeroni Civil War. We also discovered a location reference for one of the Zeroni's major colonies. Alright, so that's done. And our next location, major colony, is technically out of our control, but we will obviously be adding that pretty soon. I believe I have a... There's definitely more archaeology. This is the one I want to do, though. How you doing, Rouge Light Girl? Okay. Should take a look at what tech I'm... So we're doing the drone mining lasers. Now would not be a bad time for me to catch up on the... Let's do the crystalline entity study first. If you want context, Rouge Light Girl, I asked for some science fiction recommendations from chat, and Tilmanenk has been very, very kindly enforcing the recommendations. Pretty much any sci-fi. So the original motivation for it was the different patches for Stellaris all have a science fiction author that it's named after. This is true for basically every Paradox game. All of the patches have an associated name. In the case of Imperator Rome, they're usually after great Roman statesmen. But in the case of Stellaris, it's a wonderful opportunity to sort of get recommendations. And one of the things that I like in the case of chat is that the interests are diverse enough that I get to I get kind of the benefit of the hive mind. Basically, I'm able to hear a little bit more from people in terms of what their interests are and get some recommendations for myself. So it's purely Brian Aldiss, that's a good choice. He was the one whose story inspired the Spielberg movie AI, wasn't it? I'm trying to remember the name of the story. It's like something about toys lasting... It's like 2 super toys last all summer long.
Construction complete.
I'm back. Am I a teacher? I'm not Dexter Yap. So I used to, when I was in grad school, so they kept wanting me so it's super nice that the profs wanted this. There's 2 things that you can do in grad school to sort of cover your costs. One is to be a research assistant. So if a prof wants you as a research assistant, you'll help them with their paper, whatever they want. And then there's also a group who are asked to be teaching assistants. And that'll be you do things like tutorials, grade papers, and so on and so forth. And I had this really nice situation where I had a lot of profs who I kind of already had a rapport with. I think that's the reason why they kept asking. But basically, I had asked specifically, I would really like some teaching experience. Can you make sure that I have at least one, could you please make sure that I have at least one more... I'm just going to automate the exploration at this point. Because unfortunately, the scanners didn't tell us about the shardlings. I just really want to make sure that I do at least one, one class before I'm done. So I would have liked to have done a PhD, but I basically ran out of money. And then, of course, there's a question as to whether or not I would have been accepted, but I never got to that point, so no point in dwelling on it. But because they knew I had an interest specifically in teaching, they definitely gave me a lot of I mean, I still had to grade exams and stuff like that, but they made sure that I had a tutorial. And so I got to do that for microeconomics. But as an undergraduate, I did reasonably well in my introductory programming course, and they were specifically looking for people who were not CS backgrounds to help be undergraduate TAs. And so I actually had the experience of TAing the introductory programming course as well. And then I eventually I was able to do the intermediate one and the kind of the introduction to data structures and algorithms course, which is very theory and math heavy, not so much programming. But those, again, because they were undergraduate, and I was kind of brought in because I had an arts major, and I think they were looking for people who basically weren't comp sci majors to try and make things a little more approachable. And of course, econ's a little unique in the sense that it's probably not the one that you would go to try and convince arts majors that you're that the discipline is approachable. I don't know. I like to think I did as good of a job as I could, though. Okay.
System survey complete.
The one problem here is that my economy is actually a fairly strong component. Well, not according to... All right, nope, we'll vote for that one. Thank you, Dexter. I mean, I definitely miss I miss quite a bit of teaching. I do. I mean, there's areas where I could improve. So I've got a little bit like on stream, right? I definitely do have a tendency to go on a bit. And I really like giving examples in a lot of the classes, but that would sometimes, like you only have so much time. And I did on the feedback, I would tend to hear that the examples, like it wasn't maybe so clear why I was doing them, and they seemed to take up some time. In my defense, I was grading the exams, and I can tell you the number. I could tell you who was in my class because when they were answering the question, the example that they would use would be the one from the class, from the tutorial. So I think it did what it was intended to, but I think there is some value in making sure that the student knows the purpose of it, right? Because if they think I'm just kind of like casually telling stories or whatever, there's a place for that, right? Like there's definitely a way of like being like, there's a false economy of flogging yourself with a given topic. And it's like, I'm just going to hit myself in the head with this math textbook, 100 times. And, on the 100th time, it'll finally make sense. Like sometimes you need to go for a walk. Sometimes you need a glass of water. Sometimes you just need to do something else and come back to it with a fresh set of eyes. So there is some value in, in the mental rest. But again, it's helpful to communicate why certain things are the way that they are. Because if people feel like their time is being wasted, then that's going to create sort of a credibility problem at that time you really need, you really need, or you really want people to be paying attention. So. Oh, what did you do for teaching? Tilmanek. Oh yeah, well that was the other bit of feedback I got. Is like, I could listen to if I had only an hour left to live, I would ask to spend it in System Shock's lectures because it would feel like an eternity. Sorry. Rouge Light Girl actually also had some. Sorry, I will. I want to read this event properly, but there was a couple of other recommendations. So Rouge Light Girl, if anybody wants a really meaty sci-fi series, Aldous' Heliconia trilogy is thick. And then you also really like David Zendel's world building in his Requiem for Homo Sapiens, though it's super self-inserty. Interesting. That's really cool, Rouge Lake Girl. Thank you. I've listened to him wax poetic about math stuff for hours, and you have dyscalculia. Is that a real thing? You've actually placed a math book on your head saying, I'm going to physically remember it. You taught formal logic, syntax, and semantics. That's cool. So the data structures and algorithms course is a light version of some basic logic stuff. I took logic a couple of times, but the formal logic class I took through my philosophy department had a really cool program where you had to prove some very basic logical tools. So things like De Morgan's laws and whatnot. Apologies for those of you who don't know what De Morgan's laws are. There's basically some basic maneuvers that you can do. So like, you know how in math you can add two numbers together, right? You know, 2 and 2, and it doesn't matter. Like you can take numbers that are not 2 and combine them together in a similar way, and you know that's a thing you're allowed to do in math. And then maybe you'll also learn that when you have an equality, you can subtract something from one side, and as long as you do it to the other side, you've preserved the equality. And so you have all of these algebraic manipulations that you can do. And sometimes you're not allowed to do them in other contexts. So for instance, if you are working in something like matrix algebra, you actually kind of have to care about the shape of the matrices. You can't necessarily just throw things in front of each other willy-nilly anymore. It's not super hard to do. It's just you need to be careful. So in logic class, there are some tricks. There's like the basics that you learn, and then there are some relationships, much like algebra, or the ones that you find in algebra that are very useful. And one of them, a set of them, is called De Morgan's laws. And what was interesting about the way that they taught it was that you would have to prove certain relationships, but once you had proved them, you would basically unlocked them in the program. And so what you were able to do was you were able to prove more difficult propositions because you had already derived some really fundamental results. And I thought that was a really great way of teaching the subject. Caravaneers, thieves. After a recent visit to the Winds of Fortune to Quantos, it has been noticed that a number of resources are missing from the Central Reserve. It is suspected that the Winds of Fortune somehow made off with them. So 200 credits gone. Curse the Quarians. Again, I'm just keeping an eye on my world. I suppose I can start clearing out some of the... Oh, and I've got a science ship which is sitting idle. We'll get them on an auto explore. Isn't that how teaching goes in general? You start at the bottom and build your way up? You definitely can. I mean, it depends how you do it though, right? Like, so math is not a bad example. I know math isn't like everyone's favorite example because there are definitely a lot of people who think of themselves as not math people. And I will confess, I am one of them. Oh, of course, as soon as I spend all my money. Oh, great, but we've got 2,000 credits. So the agreement we signed giving you access to our databanks has run its course. Would you like to extend it for another 10 standard years? Or do your researchers no longer require the information we offer? We would like to extend the deal. Excellent. Our databanks shall remain available to your scientists. So, I originally knew I was going to be working in the film industry, not in, not going to university proper. And my high school math grades, among others, definitely reflect that lack of, attention. And for a very long time, I sort of thought that I was not a math person. In fact, generally, I thought I was academically unimpressive.
Construction complete.
One of the things that eventually sort of turned me around on it was it would be really helpful if I could get an idea about how these things are built. Recovered cache. While clearing wreckage on Quantos, we discovered an ancient cache of technology which dates back to our former empire. Only a minimal amount of research should be required to reintegrate this knowledge into our technology base. But yeah,
System survey complete.
where I'm trying to go with this, so to give you an idea of where I was at with my math, I'm sure everybody kind of has experienced the square root of something. Oh. It's a big one. Contact report Leviathan. We have now found beings far surpassing anything encountered in our Empire's spacefaring history. Life capable of growing to an unprecedented scale, rivaling moons in size and mass. Nothing could have prepared us for this. This day will forever mark a turning point in the story of the Black Codex. Let us hope we survive long enough to tell it. We are but motes of dust. Well, fortunately, the Leviathan is in somebody else's systems. But yeah, like to give you an idea of where I was at. So I thought of the square root as, you know, you have like a number in the house, and you know, if it's like a 9 inside of it, it's like, well, that's easy. You put like a 3 in. But if you had to do it without a calculator and there was something like 2, oh man, you were screwed. Like there was no way you'd ever be able to solve 2. Like it was the hardest problem in mathematics. And what was another factor about it was I did not appreciate that there was an inverse relationship between squaring something, you know, so taking the square of 2 will give you 4, for instance, and taking the square root of 4 would give you 2. I did not appreciate the relationship between these two things. One of the ways you can express the square root would be to take it to the power of 1/2. And then, of course, if you take something to the power of 2, and then if you take it to the power of 1/2, well, 2 divided by 2 is 1, so you get the same number again. But again, these were two independent concepts that I held from my math training. And the reason why I mentioned that, Dexter Yap, is that, so for me, and maybe my teachers did teach it that way, and I just wasn't receptive to it at the time, but for whatever reason, inside of my head, I did not have those fundamental ideas which would have allowed me to sort of appreciate how all of these things work together. And instead, I just thought of them as a set of rules that are, you know, like you just kind of have to remember them, right? The same way that, you know, you don't know the square root of 9 is 3 because you know that 3 times itself is equal to 9. You do it because you just have to memorize all of the possible numbers that'll be inside the house, which is clearly that is not mathematical understanding. And so basically for me, being able to, like doing it the way that I had to do in that logic class, that would have been very helpful for me, because in this case you are building sort of a chain of reasoning to take you to a certain place. And sometimes you just have a fixed amount of time to learn a subject in school, and sometimes the professor wants to focus on something else. In some cases you can go into too much detail. I go into too much detail on this stream all the time. But in the case of the logic class, especially because it's logic, right? It like that's the one thing that you do is build things up from sort of first principles. In that particular case, the fact that I had to derive the tools that I would be using to develop more complex arguments, that was very helpful in terms of me gaining a mastery of the subject. And it was something that I wouldn't, not necessarily something that I would have been able to rely on in other subjects. Okay, so Rouge Light Girl says, fun story about you and Mass. You always struggled with it. You were behind, so when you were 15, you put a ton of effort into getting all your credits for uni that year and then dropped math after that. Barely passed most of it, but got your uni. I mean, yeah, I mean, I had wound up doing that with French, and now I want to learn French. Oh, I agree completely, Dexter Yap. Like, once I got into once I got past the stuff that I was required to take, and I started taking things that I was interested in and I thought would be helpful for the work I was doing and stuff like econometrics, I tremendously enjoyed mathematics. I don't think I could ever be a major, but it's a beautiful subject. Okay. Our recent encounter with alien life forms has reignited and made suddenly more urgent the old debate on how we should approach contacting any potentially intelligent alien civilizations we may meet. While some advocate focusing on establishing friendly relations as quickly as possible by contacting them with a message of peace, others advise caution, pointing out that we cannot know whether alien minds bear ill intent towards us, and that it would be unwise to let them know too much about us before it is necessary. A third, more radical group push for preemptive action against them. With the security of the Emetherians at risk, they say, we dare not hesitate to take whatever measures necessary to gain the upper hand against any potential Xeno threat. The stream is always nerd talk. It always is, yes. Well, see, this is the funny thing, Night Valiant. If you were in a little bit earlier, you would have learned actually that I was quite... I mean, I'm still not that great at math, but I definitely would have classified myself as not a math person a few years ago, like when I was coming into university. We've definitely not consumed the universe. Okay, so we will not greet the Xenos with open arms. I am, however, going to read the tooltip. So policy on first contact protocol is set to proactive, cannot attack neutral entities. Other empires will find it easier to establish communications with us, and 50% more influence from each successful first contact process. Absolutely not. It is wise to be cautious. This policy has the following effects. Cannot attack neutral entities. Other nations will find it harder to establish communications with us. Negative first contact events are less likely to happen. And we must ward off those who would threaten us. Aggressive can attack neutral entities, enables hostile first contact options such as abduction and dissection. Let's be cautious. We don't want to be evil. Yeah, I appreciate the games thing. I did okay in university. But I know I wouldn't, once you're past your undergrad, I don't think it's enough to be good. You really want to do your absolute best, because it's really the one time you're gonna do something like that. And I'll be honest, I didn't do bad for sure. I think I could have done a lot better if I had spent less time on Twitch and stuff like that. You're about to start a Bachelor of Health Sciences and looking forward to seeing how much you need to catch up on. I think you will be surprised, Rouge Light Girl. The first year stuff, when you really think about it, is probably not that challenging. Which, by the way, if you struggle with it, don't take that the wrong way. Everybody's going to come to this stuff at their own pace. But I do think what you're bringing into it, your motivation, is going to probably be the bigger factor than any inherent difficulty with the problem. The pirate base, while fairly inconspicuous, is obvious when you know what to look for. A fleet in confused formation slowly drifts out from behind the repurposed mining complex. They were obviously not expecting company. Open comms, the captives need to be ready. Hello again, Patriarch. I take it the Emetherian ships are the cause of all this commotion? Our hosts seem about ready to leave their posts. Boarding this place would obviously end badly for everyone involved, but if you attack the base directly, I think we can make a break for one of the lifeboats. Please try not to blow us up on our way out. All right. Let's watch the fireworks. Oop. Esteemed Patriarch Cal Bascool, a decade ago the Black Codex pledged to support the artisan troop, and so you have. The time of your patronage is coming to an end, but we would be remiss not to ask. Would you care to renew your subscription to the finest arts and crafts in the galaxy? We will
Heretic
indeed.
fleet engaged.
Ransomir is picking up the pieces as the pirate base slowly tears itself apart in a savage chain reaction instigated by our military vessels. The search for the captive crew of the Luxian begins. If they made it to the lifeboat, they should be attempting to hail us by now. Patriarch, this is the crew of the Luxian. The plan went off without a hitch. Once you started bombarding the base directly, the guards took to their ships, and we were able to break down the cell door. The lifeboats were unguarded, and it seems you kept the pirates busy enough that they didn't much care about our escape. Welcome home, jailbreakers. All's well. With the crew of the Luxian safely on their way back to Quantos, disaster has been averted. The Avowed people are sure to glory in the decisive actions of the Black Codex Patriarch. The situation with the kidnapping Ransomir pirates, as well as the pirate band itself, has come to an end. Some questions remain, mainly relating to the much larger piratical navy and captives claimed to have seen through the portholes shortly after their capture. But considering the circumstances, it can safely be assumed that the threat appeared to be much greater than it actually was. The Ransomirs are over and done with. I wonder... So, 80 influence gained, and for 120 months we get happiness for being the savior. That one's always a little bit of a risk to take on, because if the rescue effort fails, you actually get a happiness penalty.
Construction complete.
Alright, I think I'm still going to go for the aggressive expansion out to Yinin. Given the slower pace... Oh, actually, there's another big thing I want to focus on. Alright, this is a little concerning. Though it rightfully belongs to us, the Zaxoid Stellar Confederation has audaciously laid claim to the Heimet system. Okay, so I want to get a good friend. So basically, if the Zaxoids are strong enough, they can take us out. And unfortunately, I don't think we have any way of getting back. I think I'm just going to have to blow up the science ship and build a new one.
System survey complete.
Alright, so again, inconvenient, but we managed. In this case, I'm just going to do more automated exploration. I'm happy that we've sort of found the limits now, but this is a pretty precarious position.
Special project complete.
Crystalline entities are unbreakable. The crystalline entities are probably alive, as perhaps a perhaps more descriptive name for them is silicate animate matter, as they have little in common with biological or traditionally artificial life. The entities do not seem to mate, and we have yet to observe any crystals that are recognizably older or younger than others. Contrary to an early hypothesis, the shifts in hue between individual crystalline entities seem to be related to not to their age, but their latent internal charge, which can be violently unleashed, and it appears as if sporadic fluctuations in this charge alter the refractive properties of the crystal. So it sounds potentially useful. We'll get an additional 5% energy credits, or what are the military applications? Oh man, both of those are pretty good. I'm going to go for the energy credits, though. Okay, so we have the very strong possibility of a war with a strong opponent emerging.
The spirits have granted us new wisdom.
Okay. Body of knowledge regarding combat behaviors is useless without a strong code governing its use. So, habitability plus 5% actually seems really good.
Construction complete.
I think I'm going to run with that. And it just occurred to me, there's a couple of policies that I can enact here. Yeah, I still want to be expansionist for now. Should see if I can buy some slaves at some point. Oh, right, it's the rights. Okay. Stratified economy. I think I messed something up, but... Oh, thank you, Dexter. Yeah. I mean, it's been a while, but I was in touch with Anishel, is the online name, about something else some time back, and I think they would actually really, I think they would really appreciate knowing that. So, the Giroid High Kingdom says we aim to establish an embassy on Quantos for the future betterment of Giroan avowed diplomacy. Yes, I'm okay with that. So I've been a little reluctant to do embassies because it helps, it helps decode stuff. But I think overall, I'm okay with this. Actually, let's do non-aggression pact. The galaxy presents enough threats. Wait, I really have to do... Can I not do the favor? So yeah, the galaxy presents enough threats without having to worry about a war between the Giroid High Kingdom and the Black Codex. We suggest entering into a non-aggression pact to mutually secure peace. Okay, so I don't need to do this. Now, it will cost me influence. I think I'm going to go for it, though. I'm definitely going to need somebody to... I'm definitely going to need some better relations with someone. These folks, I'm really not sure what to make of them. I think I'm gonna... I'll wait till I have a little bit more energy. Spark a diplomatic incident, cause a diplomatic embarrassment involving an envoy of the Zaxoid Stellar Confederation. Will seek to cause embarrassment by exploiting the weak links in their diplomatic... Yeah, but I don't know why I would want that. All right. Oh, sorry, we've got other details. Okay, so Harmony, we can boost the leader lifespan, we can change the... governing ethics attraction's probably most attractive to me right now. So we'll run with that. Master's teachings. I think for this one... I don't quite need to use the influence dump, but this isn't a terrible use either. At some point, I probably need to reconsider... Yeah, I'm probably going to have to reconsider the edict, because we're sort of past the point where I want to do map the stars. Oh, we got the non-aggression pact. We cannot see what either of us would stand to win from a war. We agree to enter into a pact of non-aggression. Okay, so we're starting to find some friends in the galaxy. Curious if we can do... So defensive pact, what would that take? Requires excellent relations. Okay, so I'm going to need to build that up. Technology research, mining drone lasers, using strong focus lenses and a combination with an oscillating firing frequency to help create lasers strong enough to mine asteroids or shoot down hostiles. Okay, wormhole travel. It's expensive, but I really need it. I think this is probably the best I can hope for in terms of researchers. Okay. We're also still shy on consumer goods even after the trades.
Our ships have been improved.
But yeah, once we get that wormhole travel, we'll have a much better idea in terms of what kind of defensive structures I need to build. And then... Right, there is one other thing I want to check. Slave market. No slaves for sale. So one of the things I'm going to do to try and improve my sort of my numbers is when we wind up in some situations where there are slaves available, I want to buy them so that I can have them fill in some of the more menial jobs. Okay, upon closer examination, the smashed droids found on the surface of DSS 3254 appear to originate from two distinct cultures. Technologically, the droids must have been evenly matched when they were still functional, but there are many subtle differences that hint at different design origins. Waiting till we're at... you know what? It's close enough. I'm going to start the operations against... against the Zaxoids. So we'll launch. Following a long period of growing support for the Union and metaphysical cleansing, the Talakur Citizen Compact has finally embraced the faction, adopting their core values and policies. As a result of bringing the faction into their government, they become more outwardly spiritualist. Okay, that's good news for us. More spiritualists in the galaxy means more potential allies. It's still egalitarian, which they won't like, but we may have some common ground. So the funny thing is if I hadn't taken Mestros, this would have actually been something that these two could have fought it out over. The whole point was to box these folks in, but that would have already happened. Still, I couldn't have predicted that.
System survey complete.
And as long... Okay, so I'm getting close to my cap in minerals. I think I'm going to have to sell them off. I'm actually going to sell off 10,000 of them. Oh, you know the other thing I could have done? I'll get that done now. I could have gone into my sectors. I keep forgetting to do this when I have a surplus. I can actually take that surplus and stick it in a stockpile.
The spirits have granted us new wisdom.
Alright, by adjusting atmospheric filtering on a per-site basis to better filter out undesirable elements, colonial living conditions may be improved. So the biggest reason I did that is for Lemsa, which is going to be designed as my consumer goods focus. So the more habitable I make it, the less it's going to cost me over the long term. So, I think at this point I just want to go for the cheapest options. So we've got the Amoeba Flagella. It's actually the tile blocker that's the cheapest for me. So gene tailoring would be wonderful. In this case, I'm going to do... I'm actually going to handle the tile blocker. And I think makes plenty of sense.
Our ships have been improved.
I think it makes plenty of sense to put the Fleet Academy where I'm going to be basing most of my ships. Through hard work and experience, scientist Sari Den has developed new skills. Oh, there is an important thing I want to do here. Defense platforms.
Construction complete.
And... disruption field generator. Governor Tikbathan has died at the age of 79. So I think this was the drug addict. So let's see. Clear... Oh, yeah. Clear bot blocker is exactly what I want for that governor. Patron newsletter. Here follows the latest newsletter for all our patrons. The Enclave has been busy for the last couple of months. The halls are abuzz with a new kind of technology invented by a resident capable of transmitting sensations of smell to a user. This remarkable piece of machinery will surely change everything. In order to further develop this idea, we require more donations. So we could donate for the influence. Yeah, we'll do it. And construction ship, again, we just plow ahead to... I might actually make a digression just so that I can claim this continental world ahead of time. Aha, espionage operation event pending. Something has happened in one of the espionage operations we are currently operating. Our operatives have completed their information gathering operation and have sent a dossier detailing their findings. Mission accomplished. The Black Codex gains 10 intel on the Zaxoid Stellar Confederation. Infiltration level changes by -5. Interesting. My intel on one or more of my rivals is falling. The intel may be gained by assigning an envoy to grow your spy network. Well, that's already happening, isn't it? Oh, but we're above our current max. That's why. Oh, interesting. And Empire Sprawl makes it easier to infiltrate. Very interesting. No, we're still going to be going up. Okay, no, complete. I'm totally fine with this. I'm really interested in how this espionage system works. Excuse me. I'm particularly interested in seeing what their military is like. Excuse me. And it may be prudent for me to start considering some infantry, but I'll leave that for another time. How are we for pops? Okay, so we're getting near the limit on Quantos. I think in this case we're going to build another energy sector. Castra, we still have 6 jobs available, so I'll leave that. Intham, again, I want them focusing on alloys where I can. I really do need... Oh god, I almost forgot the Psi Corps. We'll leave it be for now. I do need to be investing in my science at some point, but I'm really stuck there because it's going to have a consumer goods cost. So more food, although we're doing quite well in that front.
Construction complete.
Lemsa, again, more jobs that I'm ever going to need right now. And Wentwork. I mean, we are eventually going to need another district, so I might as well build that one now. But again, we've got more than enough.
Construction complete.
I should just spike that message. That's not gonna help. I think at this point, it seems like a way of advancing the. Like the job faster. So we found an archaeological site, crashed starship. A small canyon of sorts has been carved into the surface of this planet by the violent impact of a starship. What remains of the vessel can still be found on the canyon floor. Although the crash must have occurred eons ago, the wreckage appears to be reasonably intact. An archaeological expedition would be able to learn more. Okay. And robot debris, battlefield. The DSS 3254 does not seem to have simply been a dumping ground for broken droids. It may have served as the actual battlefield where they were destroyed. The many layers of debris suggest a series of very intense battles waged intermittently across the better part of 2 centuries. Exactly why 2 interstellar powers would commit such vast resources towards waging a massive ground war on a small and unremarkable asteroid remains an unanswered question. Okay, so the resolution has passed. This was the recycling initiative, so that helps me out with consumer goods, but does make me a little bit weaker as far as economic power. I'm really reluctant to do diplomatic weight from pops because I feel like I'm going to be behind on that one. I think I'll support the Tianki Conservation Act just so that I can sort of, like, this is my effort to filibuster the Comfort the Fallen initiative. And I think I am gonna ninja these planets. Now, there's one thing, because I've got terraforming, I've actually been meaning to see.
Construction
Yes.
complete.
Okay. We are gonna terraform the heck out of everything. Okay, so rather important development here. I got terraforming a while ago, and I've just not, I've just not been paying attention. Well, I've been paying attention, but like I just needed to find the right moment. So what I'm basically looking to do here is to terraform a world into something that, one, that I can defend, and two, that I can produce a lot from. So right now my baseline is an arid world, size 10. Not too exciting, right? We got a 22 Arctic world. It's close to my capital, and it's got plenty of room for consumer goods factories. So continental world, very appealing option here. This is almost certainly going to be the one that I terraform. Let's just take a look at some of the other options. So we've got a size 11 Arctic world. Nothing too special going on here, although it does have the bubbling swamps and crystalline caverns, so it'll be good for exploiting the rare resources. Size 11 desert world. No spice melange. Archaeological site. Well, we already took care of that, though, so that's not that exciting. Not bad for industrial districts, but again, it's size 17. Size 17, but a weak magnetic field, so it's less attractive than it would normally be. Then, of course, all of these other worlds, which I would have to expand out to. Again, lots of potential as far as the... Oh, this has a dust desert on it. The galaxy is not empty. We did get a bit lucky in terms of not being too close to people. However, with the addition of the espionage, like the systems inside there, we don't get to see as much of the galaxy right now. So it actually took the Vitricis hive to sort of detect us. We were a little lucky in our start in the sense that we sort of get all of this to ourselves. There's this fallen empire, which we were beside. There is at least one more fallen empire somewhere in the galaxy, presumably somewhere around here. But it looks like the majority of the population of the galaxy actually wound up on the other side. So I've been lucky enough to sort of be able to blob out, although of course I'm paying for it in terms of empire sprawl and a relatively... because that's what the random numbers did. I didn't think it was such a controversial point. But yeah, I mean, essentially, the fact that I have such a low growth rate really hurt me here. And one of the things I'm trying to do to compensate for it would be to try and claim more worlds, but but the important one for me is Aranus 2. This is the best candidate for terraforming. Obviously, we're going to have to wait 10 years for it, but 5,000 well spent, and that's going to become potentially another source of of consumer goods if we can't get Inthams. Actually, the other thing about Intham... Right, sorry, I need ecological adaptation before I can do that. How far away from we getting our 51 months? Right, I forgot. That's going to take a while. But we got cruisers coming. That'll hopefully give us another insurance policy against the Zaxoids. I do at some point. We do have like some gaps to fill in here.
Construction complete.
I'm debating as to whether or not I should claim Jabba now, or things like Algol and Uriel and such. Now, you know what? I'll take Evexis. It's not the most efficient movement for my construction ship, but I probably should try and keep this number from getting as high as it is.
System survey complete.
The ISS Tabamka canceled its auto-surveying order. It cannot reach or find any other unsurveyed systems. All right.
Construction complete.
I was kind of scared that was going to happen. Here we will start by colonizing. So again, this is going to explode my Empire Sprawl, but I want to sort of lock down as much of the galaxy as I can. And I think Phase 2's got to come up now if I don't have anywhere else to explore for the moment. I mean, we can take our fleets and sort of sweep away some of the shardlings and such. But I think for the time being, let's try and turn some of this into... let's turn some of this into science. So we'll assist research on Quantos for a start. Eventually we'll do assist research on Wentwork as well. Basically, this has not quite built itself up to be the research center that it needs to be. But we'll get there. I'm not sure what you mean by an erudite.
The spirits have granted us new wisdom.
Could you, Ayambisuki, could you explain what you mean by your question? I don't think I quite followed. And thanks a lot for stopping by, Dexter Yap. I actually really appreciate you letting me know about the CS stuff. I will be sure to reach out to the Night Team 4 people. Again, no promises, because it has been a very long time since I've heard from them. But it was actually really nice to hear. It was really nice to hear your... It's really nice to hear about your computer science decision. So, originally devised as an experimental next-generation colony ship hull configuration, the design's ample hardpoints make it ideal for carrying heavy weapons ordnance. Let's pick an engineering... civil... I wouldn't normally do this, but it's so cheap. An espionage event. Our operations have completed their information gathering operation and have sent a dossier detailing their findings. So, again... Wait, different. Medium government intel on the Zaxoid Stellar... Okay, so this has different effects each time. That's good to know, because I probably wouldn't have done that if I'd known that was the outcome. Let's just get a quick word as to where we are. So again, actively hostile, no surprises there. I don't actually believe that number. Okay, maybe I do need to believe that number. Yeah, okay. Brain Slug makes sense, because that was an event from before. But yeah, I mean, we have a few geniuses kicking around. But most of the extra stuff that we've gotten just happened to be a lucky set of events. I don't think there's anything too strange in the leadership pool. Okay, with pre-programmed nanocircuits, many consumer products can be rapidly assembled in fabricators. Now, we have a dilemma now, because while we do have some decent access to crystals, the temple's going to want crystals. The administrative centers are going to want crystals, and obviously the admin cap is something I really want to be hammering on. So I need consumer goods, and they're going to want crystals. I want to keep my temples up and running. They're going to want crystals. And I need to keep my bureaucracy running, and they're going to want crystals. So that's why I don't think this is a very likely expansion. Well, if I want the synthetic crystal plants, I suppose I can run with that. The Star Fortress is really tempting, just because I know I have to deal with the ne'er-do-wells. Okay, so Plasma Thruster is an individual improvement to my ships. Technically, that will improve my evasion if memory serves. 47 months versus 59 months. For a year's difference, I get better defensive hard points. I feel like the Star Fortress is the right call here. Miraculously, we're back to a surplus on consumer goods. I wonder how long that will last. Where else were we? I wanted to see whether or not that intel number was real. Oh wait, intel, right. Intel is different from infiltration. I need to remember that. Receiving a transmission from the independent space station of the Ziracorp. They appear to have successfully translated our language. Welcome to Ziracorp. We are a business conglomerate operating out of the Baham system, specializing in trade, the very building blocks of civilization, as we like to say here at Ziracorp. Please do not hesitate to contact us if you are interested in making a good deal. Well met. Yeah, well, I mean, it's you play the hand you're dealt, right? So basically, the slow population growth is hampering me. One way that I've mitigated that, at least as far as I can, is to try and pursue terraforming. What I'm trying to do right now is to get the wormhole exploration so I can see exactly how much of this I need to defend. Given that I'm authoritarian, there is one option I have, which is to just simply like enslave some of the enemy species. But that depends rather heavily on knowing what they're packing, and obviously they're keeping kind of tight-lipped. We currently don't have any military intel. So for now, we'll just keep infiltrating the Zaxoid Stellar Confederation. The good news is, while we did have a tough start with the hive mind, we seem to have balanced out a little bit in terms of relation. Like, wary, but it's not it's not terrible where we're at. Oh, and we're fully infiltrated with these guys. So either I need to... Actually, you know what? Let's take a look at what we've got here. So we can prepare sleeper cells. If it succeeds, cease activity within the spy network, allowing the spy master to be reassigned, while also preventing its infiltration level from decaying. That sounds pretty good, and the music is saying I should do this. Or gain an asset for use within the spy network. I think we'll just swing for the fences here. Actually, you know what? No, let's get an asset. We can attempt to coerce operatives and other assets who would be of use to our intelligence operations, recruiting them for a price. What's up next? Cooperative research channels. I support that. We should establish protocols that permit scientists of the galactic community to share and review discoveries more easily. Also, I should be killing my Map the Stars edict now because I don't really have any more exploration.
The spirits have granted us new wisdom.
So we can do... Well, this is the obvious one. Researcher output in exchange for energy credits, but I actually have a surplus. Okay, so let's kill Map the Stars and we'll give research subsidies. And we've got our tile. I mean, the tile blockers, it was just available. It was so that I could get another draw from the deck. So with the advent of clean fusion, automation, and matter compression technologies, it was only a matter of time before the mountaintop removal became a mountain range removal. This is cool. I didn't know that there was a tech for additional building slots. But farming subsidy, well, I didn't want that. But food processing facilities is the thing that I've been looking for forever. So we got a bunch of cool stuff here, but in this case, food processing is going to be what helps Gribben Prime realize its potential, and we will fill up on a few more consumer goods. All right, so this tropical world isn't the most exciting thing that I could be looking at, but I'll keep it in mind. And I'm getting close to the end of my time
System
here,
survey
but I
complete.
do want to see where the the mission goes. So let me just take a second here and see what we're looking at. I want to see what we're looking at tech-wise. Holy crap! Oh no, sorry. That's my capital. That is where it's supposed to be. But looks like Wentworth Artem is already rocking a lot of research. Well, okay, it is giving a lot of research, but it's all social research. But what else am I going to do with the ship, right? So let's get them contributing some work. And I get this really pains me to do, but we'll at least prep them for wait, right? Because they don't have the size yet. Wait, wrong group. Wait, no, sorry, wrong contact. This thing, I don't
System
actually know
survey
what the
complete.
consequences of failed missions are. This could actually wind up blowing up in my face here.
Construction complete.
Our archaeologists have learned that after a long and bitter war, the two empires inhabiting this corner of the galaxy some 200,000 years ago signed a treaty compelling them to settle all future disputes with arranged and highly regulated combat engagements between robotic armies. DSS 3254 was chosen as the site of these battles. The treaty appears to have been upheld for nearly 2 centuries, preventing the outbreak of armed hostilities on numerous occasions until one of the empires was caught cheating. So apart from Animorphs, which is the most intelligent sci-fi book you know, Rouge Light Girl, just so... they're all equally good. Sorry, I just want to check something. Cool. I pushed the wrong button and 100 tabs. I'm really bad for keeping 1,000,000 tabs open on my computer. Okay, curious. And a ton of engineering research, which will be good for my... that'll be good for my better star bases. But I still need to move out. So again, this is a somewhat questionable approach to expansion, but I want to at least lock it in, and then we'll just try and deal with the consequences over time as we can. And we're still gonna... I mean, it's rather bizarre to consider the idea of turning a hive mind... Ah, damn it. Spymaster Mickey Basiram reports that our team of operatives near the Vitricious Hive has missed a number of checkpoints. Given the nature of this operation, we had already anticipated them being unable to maintain frequent contact. However, our Spymaster is regrettably confident that by now the team has been lost. Operation Acquire Asset may be rescued if we can successfully cover our tracks, pitting our code breaking against their encryption. Regrettably, we are not ready, so we can disavow, cancels Operation Acquire Asset. There's a high chance our actions will go unnoticed depending on the target's encryption. Success is more likely if we have an asset assigned. Okay, so disavow. Let's see what the fallout was. Well, I mean, it's not terrible. But given the fact that the acquire asset didn't turn out, the likelihood of me having sleeper cells is even less likely. So now I got to think, why did I want to mess around with this guy in the first place? So we're already working on infiltrating our enemies. So basically, I've got my network in place with the hive. What exactly am I trying to accomplish with this? And the answer right now is basically nothing. They might be a worry, like they're definitely a strong opponent, but I mean, the fact of the matter is I really don't have any good options here. So I can try and get in a defensive alliance with the Geroid High Kingdom. They already like me quite a bit, but I need to boost the relations even more. Or I can try and make nice with the hive. This is, I think, a little less likely given the fact that we've got our borders closed, and I mean, we might be able to prevent them from kind of going to war with us, but I'm not entirely sure that they're going to be coming in to, to beat the crap out of the Zaxoid Stellar Confederation. So I think for a start, let's at least improve relations. So I mean, I'll lose the infiltration, but what was that getting me, right? And then I think in future I'm going to try and find targets with weaker encryption so I can just sort of set up a bunch of spy networks sort of autonomously, and then we can worry about some of our harder targets. Governor Tiggy Jakir has gained a well-earned reputation as a crime fighter. She has publicly vowed to root out corruption and injustice wherever it might be found. Okay, and I think that's going to be where I call it for tonight. So my apologies to those who were... I know I sort of disengaged from chat for a little bit. I wanted to focus on the game for a little bit, and it also kind of felt like I didn't have as much of a role to play in some of those conversations. So now would not be a bad time if you had something that you wanted me to comment on and I didn't respond to it. It might have been because I missed it. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to sort of recap what my plans are for because I never really I don't even know if I can say recapped. I should probably just talk about what my plans for the next few rounds are going to be, and see. I don't know. I'll try and articulate where I think the trade-offs are coming on a lot of this. So this round we got one of the things we were shooting towards, which is the boundaries, or at least our easternmost boundaries. Now the drawback is that there's a reasonably powerful enemy that's kind of parking, that's sitting at our doorstep. One thing I can sort of do to make this work for me, we can build 3 more defense platforms as a start. So obviously I can try and build as much as I can to try and keep them at bay. But the fact of the matter is, like, my existing fleet would be able to sweep this thing away. So if they wind up being superior military force to us, this is not going to be enough in isolation. The other thing that I wanted to do was try and expand out to sort of a natural endpoint. Now, through our habitation improvements and through, a couple of other factors, either the Yin or the distal system sort of becomes our most logical endpoint for now. Theoretically, the sky's the limit as far as expansion is concerned, but one of the things was I claimed Yin because I knew I could get it, and I went for the +7 physics. So if I didn't plan on taking it, I should have just taken the pure physics research. We're also on our way to the last piece of the puzzle, which is wormhole travel. Once we know where these things go, we'll get an idea about specifically where these things exit, and then we can start planning out our our defenses. In this case, I'm underweight in terms of overall space stations. One of the reasons for that, though, is I would like to have some really clear ideas in terms of where my priorities are for building them before I try and go past the, basically before I go past the limit needlessly. Now, one problem I have with the approach that I've been taking here is obviously we've started ignoring the Empire sprawl. I didn't appreciate that there would be intelligence consequences for doing so. The aim has just been to sort of close off as much of the galaxy as I can for myself, build up the industrial base as a result, and then kind of deal with the consequences after the fact. And again, I couldn't have known this starting the mission. If I'll be completely honest, if I had known I would have a big section of the galaxy to myself, clearly the ability to grow out to these planets and make the most of them would have been worth a lot more. But this is the appeal of doing randomized starts, right? You don't know what you're going to encounter, and not every game necessarily has to be the the optimal playthrough every time. So one of the consequences of my slow population growth is this long-standing nagging consumer goods shortfall. We sort of have what we need to be able to overcome that, but again, we need bodies to work the sites. And then another weakness that I'm potentially setting up for myself, because I'm short on consumer goods, it means that I have this growing technology adoption cost, but I have fewer opportunities to leverage my research. So when we can finally get Wentworth up and running, we have the social benefits from Titanic life. We have the gardens, which will give me +20 to culture and +10 to research. And then we have the custodian buff, which gives 40 to culture workers and 20 to researchers. This thing will be producing awe-inspiring amounts of research. But the jobs that will produce that research are going to be ones that require consumer goods. So until that happens, essentially my expansion plans are all costs for technology and no benefit to Oh, you still haven't played Stellaris? You gotta try it, Rouge Light Girl. It's not as bad as it seems, but it also has a good tutorial. But yeah, I think this is something that we'll be able to overcome, but I am going to need to do a little bit of fancy footwork as far as just managing all of the resources that I currently have. The good news is that because I have such large surpluses in terms of things like minerals, food, and energy, I can usually buy my way out of the consumer goods problems. The problem is just it's not a very efficient way of managing it. And of course, I have other options as well, right? Not edicts, but policies. I can change my economic policies and such. But my aim has always been to try and take this long view, not to set policies in response to 5-year, 4-year problems. I want to try and sort of I really want to try and steer things towards a sort of sustainable production level. And again, that's kind of one of the reasons why I'm doing things like habitability and such, because it'll overall lower the costs on these other worlds. And then, of course, I have allowed for the possibility of expanding my industrial base. We are currently terraforming Araness, and eventually that's going to be another set of industrial districts that I can turn into consumer goods. I'll be honest too. Like between Lemsa and Araness, I have a feeling that we'll wind up with a big surplus of consumer goods, at which point I go crazy for research. And that, just to give you an idea of what that will look like, it's not just the Gaia world that gets the technology. That's when I start taking a look at, maybe size 10 isn't the best example, but size 17? So even a planet like this, which has a fairly decent industrial base, right? This might be one which I just go crazy on the city districts for and just build a whole bunch of research facilities. Or actually, this would be great. The problem is that it's 2 planets that need to be terraformed, but in that one system, there's a total of 35 slots. No, but one of them has a negative feature, lower habitability, lower food. Well, who cares? We're not going to use that for agriculture. But yeah, you kind of get the idea, right? Like we can start having a little bit more specialization. Essentially, as long as my consumer goods needs are being covered, I want to just be throwing all of that into technology. And then, of course, also alloys. Like I'm not going to ignore those. But right now, we just don't know what to do with our alloys. As our technology train sort of starts rolling, we're going to find that we're going to have more fleet cap than what we know what to do with. We're also going to have more reasons to go to war. We're going to want to try and get slaves and such. But that's a little bit more forward looking than what I would care for. Right now, it's really just a matter of trying to, where I can, augment the growth rates, and then when I can, try and mitigate some of the effects of my Empire Sprawl. Right now, the Empire Sprawl is buying me more planets, and this is the real key to this approach, which is because my growth rate is slow, I am trying to make sure that I build a bunch of, basically that I have growth over multiple planets to essentially make sure that I'm trying to keep my population levels up, and the hope is just sort of over the long run that this will carry on. It might even get to a point where when it comes down to this world, it gives me the extra minerals. That's nice, but it's not like I really need them now, right? One thing that may wind up even happening on this world is as I wind up building, or as I wind up growing more pops, I might even just send them off to other worlds to fill in jobs that I want. Anyways, some food for thought. I'm really looking forward to the next couple of weeks where we start seeing some of this stuff play out. I'm really interested just in terms of I'm pretty sure at least one of them is an advanced start. It's possibly 2. I don't know if there's any way, because it's Iron Man, I don't think I can go into the console to see if there's any indicators for those things. But as always, this is fun. I hope you guys, for the most part, enjoyed it. I know there's one person who probably didn't, but let's see if there's anybody to host tonight. Oh, one other thing I was meaning to say at the start of the stream, and I said the thank yous to the YouTube crowd, but I didn't get the other detail in. I have been thinking a little bit about so there's a few things that I've been doing on YouTube which have had a certain degree of success. So I noticed I did a tutorial-ish video for Phantom Brigade that had quite a positive reception, which I was pleased with. I've been doing the Cultist Simulator runs, which also seems to have been getting some some good, just generally some good traction. And what I'm most interested in now is I'm trying to kind of take the temperature of what. I'm trying to think of the best way to put it, but like, sorry, I'm just dealing with a message that I just saw up here. I'm sort of conscious of the fact that I have a limit in terms of the amount of time that I can spend on some different things. For those of you that like Stellaris, it's very helpful for me to know that you like Stellaris. And I just kind of wanted to try and cover some of those. I just wanted to try and cover some of those details just to find out how, I guess, if I were to do that as opposed to a narrative-based game like Six Ages or something like that, what are you most interested in seeing? I realize that's not maybe very important for the Stellaris crowd. For those of you, I will be doing this every Monday, for those of you who like to see it live. But I am done for tonight. I'm actually really just trying to find a Stellaris streamer who... I don't think I know any of these folks. You like it when I play games? That's really good to know, Mosquito Controller. If it's an RPG, you may not watch if you want to play it yourself. Okay, thanks for that, guys. Tell you what, I am actually really interested in this. So I don't know who this is, but it looks like this streamer called Deep Fin. It says Stellaris Update 3.0 Void Dweller RP. And given the fact that I tend to like make... Oh, thank you, Mosquito. Yeah, those aren't going away. So I don't know who this streamer is, but given the fact that I like doing sort of character-based Stellaris streams, I think this might not be a bad streamer to host. So again, I hope this is enjoyable for all of you. I'd love it if you'd stick around. It is going to be another Stellaris stream. I didn't realize there were so many of you watching. I'm sorry for the extended goodbye. I sort of thought I was just talking to my own people, but hang around. It would be nice to give another Stellaris streamer a chance to draw your attention. Quick reminder for those of you who watch my stuff normally, next Oblivion episode is already uploaded, and that'll be ready to go tomorrow at 7 o'clock. No stream Wednesday. I am, however, going to be presenting at the local game dev meetup, Dirty Rectangles, so I will be hosting that. That'll be happening around 8 o'clock in the evening, but I'm probably going to be later on in the... I'm going to probably be later, so I'll probably be presenting around 9. It's on how to estimate sales for a game using Steam reviews, or the fact that it's actually really hard to do that. I'll try and sneak in a stream on Thursday if I can, but don't count on it. So for those of you looking for the next live broadcast, that will be Friday with more Hollow Knight. And for those of you who like Stellaris, I will see you Monday. Thanks a lot for hanging out. Please feel free to follow if you're looking for more Stellaris, and please have fun at Deep Fin's channel.